that this was going to be such a long fuse event. You're watching Mississippi Live weather here at now about 9:26. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon, and we are monitoring, obviously, an ice storm that continues to be ongoing, and unfortunately, ice that will continue falling for the next couple of hours. As I show you Futurecast radar here, and I think that might be the best way to kind of show the end of this event and where things go from here. And Caleb, I will talk to you about some of the things that you're learning on social media here in a moment. But let's track kind of the back side of this. This won't get us all the way to the end of the event. This will get us to about 11:30. And we'll continue to show, again, folks clearing and getting past the worst of it, hopefully, in Greenville and Cleveland within the next hour or so. For locations such as Greenwood and Grenada, I mean, it's still for you. Could be ongoing at around 11 o'clock. And one thing you will note on this, versus the Futurecast I showed you a moment ago, this is kind of indicating the thing I've sort of talked about. I'm concerned this might still be going on a little bit longer. And there are still some heavier bands out there. If we're looking at the next big heavy band, moving into Greenwood about 9:47 there, getting there closer to Grenada by about 10:30. Oxford, where we've just had all these power outages. You've heard from Water Valley, you've heard from Oxford, from so many people today. And unfortunately, additional power outages could continue to be possible as these additional bands move in. As I kind of re-rack this, go back again. If you're looking at this one there for Kosciuszko, heavier icing again, moving back toward Clay County, Monroe County, eventually up toward Itawamba County, and back out into Marion and Franklin counties as we go again through the latter part of this morning. So the unfortunate thing is it does look like we could continue to see this for a while longer. We're hoping the dry air starts eating this. It will eventually here, but I think early afternoon when we are done. The other member of our broadcast team, I'm going to go to a 4-box here for a second, and this is going to show me, Caleb, and the last time we were able to get a hold of both Gabe, which would have been last night when his power went out, and then Maggie this morning where we talked about that long. Both of them have lost power. I've lost power at my house. We have backup batteries. We have solar, but that's not going to do me a good today. And I have an electric F-150 that I'm running this whole operation right now off of. Luckily, fiber internet tends to be separate than the power. So because of good infrastructure planning by the folks at Todd Bigby, as long as I keep that stuff all powered, we can still talk. But Caleb's sitting better than most down there in Oktibbeha County. And if you don't mind grabbing that phone and walking out of the house, I would like to see what kind of precipitation is falling there as well. That sound good?
I can do that.
Okay. So our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, again, there in Oktibbeha County, one of the fortunate ones there who still has power. And Caleb, you were also one of the first reports of, tree branches and stuff coming down that we had last night in a place that hasn't had maybe as much icing. That might just be, it took a while for those reports to come in. But certainly it has been kind of a rough day or so. And this is kind of the time period on the last end here where you might see some additional icing, right?
Yes, sir. No, that's exactly right. I've been sitting in the laundry room, helping out behind the scenes, and I can hear tree limbs falling in the backyard. And what I thought to be the backyard, it took me a while to find it, but as we walked out front, we can see a huge limb all the way out in my neighbor's yard, all the way out there, kind of right behind the car. You can see kind of tricky balancing that. But just hearing those snaps as we continue into these morning hours, even for those out here in Starkville, where we really feel like we're not getting the blunt of this, we're still feeling those effects. And this is something else I want to point out. We're receiving a lot of rainfall. We can see it just kind of puddling up, continuing to accumulate as we continue into these morning hours, eventually lunchtime hours. But as those temperatures drop, I mean, all of this could glaze over. And then with us not really seeing as much ice as our neighbors up to the northwest, I mean, that could show some black ice potential problems in the future. So showing that traffic and travel really improbable, impossible even. And I've stayed put all weekend long. And I know some people, even on South Montgomery, still driving here in Starkville. Just do your best. There we go. There's a fire truck. Totally acceptable. We get why you're out there. And that's why we want to stay off the roads. Let them do their job. Let them continue helping us out here, restore power. I know we've had some power outages. Luckily for me so far, haven't quite seen that. So hoping to keep it that way, but still rainy conditions, and I'm tracking even cooler conditions, showing that maybe some freezing rain, some sleet, hopefully, rather than that freezing rain will move on into our area. But starting to see these conditions and very saturated as I continue to want to show you all those puddles again. I mean, just overflowing with how much that we've gotten all day. So those limbs continuing to fall, even though we're not really getting the blunt of it, but wanted to give you all an update out here. still have my cars out here in the front. So those trees and those limbs out in the backyard, they're not falling on the cars. And thankfully that limb out there, not really falling on a house or any car. So it's just in the middle of the yard, but still showing how dangerous, these conditions can be, Matt. So right here in Oktibbeha County, thankfully, not a worst case situation. Still seeing that drip coming off the roof and those shingles. So definitely some good news as we continue. But I do know those temperatures are going to continue to drop for the afternoon hours. We're usually used to those temperatures warming up by then, but unfortunately going to be the opposite case later on today, Matt.
It is. Our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut giving us an update there from the Golden Triangle and the fortunate situation. Thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather and all the hard work that you have put in through the day. The picture here coming from Prentiss County, Jade sending us a shot here of, again, the tree limb completely weighed down by ice, probably weighing multiple times of what it would typically weigh, and that's what brings it down. And I have about a zillion group chats. We did an assessment at church last week. I typically teach at church. About a week ago at church, we did a digital assessment. One of the questions is asked, how many alerts do you get per day? And trying to figure out, how that then assessed, what your digital, exactly what you want to say. There's no way I've got 3,000 alerts so far this morning. So I apologize if I get a little distracted from time to time there as I'm trying to kind of go through some of what you are sending in here. But like every single second, it is bing, 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 bing. I'm getting multiple per second. So we're trying to get as much information for you as quickly as we can, but it obviously takes time. And as you can see back here, you can get the Mississippi Live Weather app. We do stream live on it when we're live. We're live. You can see us right at the top of that app. It's the easiest way to find out about the weather situation. One thing that we had talked about that we have not discussed a lot this morning is the severe weather risk. Because believe it or not, there is a severe weather risk today that has been down closer to the coast. Our friends down at Panhandle Weather covering that. Chris Smith, Dan Nyman down there doing an excellent job in Panama City. If you are a person who travels down there during tour season, check them out. Panhandle Weather. They do what we do up here, and they do a spectacular job with it. We're part of a group of meteorologists around the country that are doing this because we understand weather deserves more than 3 minutes a couple of times a day, because sometimes the weather deserves a long-form conversation, which is what we're having with you today. Tornado, wind threat, that has luckily all stayed to our south, but unfortunately we have continued to have, again, this heavy precipitation move through and still a significant icing event underway here across North Mississippi. So download the app, stay ahead of things, and obviously we'll keep watching things closely for you as we go throughout the morning. And we'll bring it back in here a little closer. We have behind the scenes, I see that he's up, and it's going to take me just a second here to type in his name and kind of bring up all the information of that. I think I can bring him on before that's the case. This is Rick Wise. He's a friend of mine, I've got to click back in here. He's also a Boy Scout, works for the Boy Scouts of America. You might say, why are we pulling on a Boy Scout? Why does that matter? Wilderness survival, understanding how to kind of make it through tough situations, developing character in both men and women. That's what Boy Scouts are about. And Rick, when we were talking, I think, with the emergency manager in Union County, I think it was Union County a few minutes ago there, it occurred to me, many people don't have any kind of real concept about, okay, now the power's out, what do we do next? How do we stay warm? What are some suggestions for folks that are going to get between cold and very cold? Very cold, we have to find someplace, a safe shelter, but, cold to try to stay warm the next couple of days.
Yeah, and forgive me, there's a lot of information out there about staying warm in the house, and some of this information that I have really is about staying warm in the outdoors, but it applies just the same. And, we've, in Scouts, we spend many nights out in the cold, nights that are going to get down to 12. I think the coldest I've spent a night in a tent was somewhere between 5 and 8 degrees. But it all has to do with keeping your body temperature up, which has to do with layering. If you're going to be out and about, especially with the wetness, do not wear cotton. Wear wool, wear a synthetic fiber. The saying in the woods is cotton kills. And so if cotton gets wet, it tends to wick body heat away from the body rather than keeping it in. So, you know, if you're going to be out and about, especially in your car, have a sleeping bag in your car, have a blanket in your car. Don't wear cotton, wear wool and synthetic fibers. Inside the house, you can do a lot of the things that scouts do. If you have sleeping bags, get it. If your house gets really cold, get in the sleeping bag and then get in your bed. The sleeping bag will help to insulate. You can set up a tent inside your house. Uh, if it's, especially if it's a dome style tent, set it up in a smaller room, get your family in there, put some blankets inside for insulation around the walls, throw a couple blankets over the top. That will help retain the body heat inside the tent. Body heat is
Yeah,
really
that's
what
so
it's
crazy.
about.
That's a great idea.
Um,
I never would have thought of
eating
that.
food, making sure that you are well fed so that the body is generating its own heat, and then creating layers around your body so that you keep that heat inside.
Okay, so I never would have thought about the tent idea. It's the idea of encapsulating the heat in kind of an interior sort of area there. That's a great idea because that's kind of you retain the heat with layers, and so even inside the house, extra layers is probably one of the things we're going to go. I know my wife hates sleeping in socks. How about yours, Rick? But that's going to happen tonight. It's for a lot of folks. Maybe
Yeah,
a couple
you know,
pairs.
if you're without power, setting up a tent inside the house, again, retaining that body heat in a small space. And tents are not great for retaining heat, but you can insulate it by putting blankets over the top of the tent, several layers, and lining the inside of the tent with blankets. And that, again, if you have several people in a tent and you have several layers of blankets over the top, several blankets inside, get in there with your sleeping bags, you can withstand very, very low temperatures.
You're right, because again, if I told you that you could have a heater that was 98 degrees inside your tent, you'd say absolutely yes. And that's what another person can be. And if you put multiple people in there and you can find the space, then you can absolutely generate enough heat. And you're right, stay well fed, stay well hydrated. Water
Yes.
heats slowly and it cools slowly. And so I'm not saying overwater yourself, but ultimately, if you stay hydrated and you stay fed, you're going to continue generating heat at the proper rate.
Absolutely. You know, there's, I know a lot of people are talking about propane heaters. You got to be very careful about
Mm.
propane heaters in a enclosed space. And if you're in a tent, it can be very, very dangerous. That's not something, you know, that I recommend unless you know how to do that safely and you are doing it safely. But body heat, being healthy, being well fed, being hydrated, as you said, and then getting layers and getting in a small space so that again, several people. You know, we have four people that live at my house and plenty of tents, being with the scouts. So you know, if we all get in a tent together, we'll stay perfectly warm.
You know, I think we solved the riddle. The question has always been why milk and bread? Well, milk's fatty, right?
Right.
Especially when we get whole milk, and bread is carbs. The
Yeah.
milk and bread was to keep you warm the whole time and add layers of weight. It was sitting right in front of us the whole time.
Sometimes that old wisdom is good, I guess.
Ugh, I don't know if I call it wisdom, but at least we found an excuse. That will become our
There you
prevailing
go.
and what we describe. You know,
You know, and again, being a scout, I've got all my camping gear, so we take that milk and bread and some eggs, and we'll be out on the cook stove, the camp cook stove, making it into French toast, which is even better.
another thing, and this is not a commercial for scouting, but this is a thought process here as well in building, better communities and more resilient community members. Is about one of the scout, terms is do a good turn daily, and I think that we have an
Absolutely.
opportunity here to help out our friends and neighbors because let's be clear, when you're talking about, I think it was, I can't remember which county it was. It's multiple counties where we're almost 90% of people without power with hundreds and hundreds of power outages. It's going to take a long time to get that back on. We're talking weeks in many cases. And so
Yeah.
you and I are closest to our neighbors, it's time that we leave the walls, and again, not in the middle of the night when it's super cold, but before that checking, leave the walls of our little cage here that we live in and engage with neighbors and help each other out.
100%. That's the message that we sent out on our Facebook post. You know, the Scout motto is be prepared, and it's something that we truly believe in. And one of the messages that we sent out on our Facebook post just before this storm hit, we sent a graphic that you had posted and said, be prepared and be prepared to do a good turn by helping your neighbors that may not be prepared. And that's the message that we try to send. The Red Cross, which is another great organization, has a shelter set up at Cadence Bank Arena. Well, the scouts, we had some scouts go down yesterday to help set that up, and it was great because one of the Red Cross volunteers said, "Yeah, we're not sure how to set these cots up," and I said, "No problem, we got this. That's something we know how to do and are well prepared to do." So we were happy to help out there. The Red Cross has my number if they need more assistance. We've had scouts volunteering to go and go down there and help out when and where needed. You know, talking about the cold and talking about scouts and being prepared, we just had a troop. We've got several high adventure bases around the country. And we have one that's in Minnesota and then up in Canada. It's got a couple locations called Northern Tier. Well, at Northern Tier, the scouts go out and do at winter treks where they snowshoe or cross-country ski or dog sled and build ice shelters and stay in that. So if you think about that compared to this, those scouts are well prepared to handle something like this. They've spent multiple nights building and sleeping in ice shelters and dog sledding or snowshoeing. You know, it's about being prepared when you know something bad is potential to happen, and then being willing to do a good turn and help others who may not be as fortunately prepared as you are.
Yeah, and that's doing a good turn, taking care of one another, because clearly we're going to have a lot of folks, a lot of trees down. There's going to be opportunity for service hours, one of the things you need for rank advancement in Scouts, and just one of the things that we need to do just to be kind citizens. Rick Wise, thank you so much for joining us here on Mississippi Live Weather this morning. Great insight. I think I'm trying to think of weakness points that people are going to have, because number one, these phones are going to start running out of power. Some folks, I've seen a few folks in the chat that are getting power back, and you are one of the incredibly lucky ones if that is the case for you. But these are going to go out of power, and so people are going to lose their ability to kind of connect with us here pretty soon. So ultimately, sorry, I got distracted by something else. What are some other sorts of situations people could run into? I know in the past there have been situations where water was more limited. I'm just trying to think of some other situations people might run into if this is the last time we get to talk to them for a few days.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we didn't go out and buy water, but what we did do is we took all of our pots and pans, and I've got tons of water bottles, and we filled all that up and kept that in the kitchen. Our bathtubs are filled with water. I've got both water purification tablets, which you can get at Walmart in the camping section, and also pump water filters, hand pump water filters. So, just making sure that you have a good, clean source of water, making sure that if it's not a clean source of water, you have a way of purifying that. You can either boil it for several minutes. If you boil it and then run it through something like a sock to get the particulates out, a clean sock, or pantyhose or something like that, that'll get the particulates out, and then you can boil that water and let it cool, and that'll be safe to drink. Or, if you have a water filter or iodine tablets, there's various different ways that you can purify water and be safe.
Okay, that's Rick Wise with the Boy Scouts, Scouting America. We're going to Scouting America. I know there's been a name change there. Scouting America, right?
Right. Yes, that's correct.
As an Eagle Scout, I still say Boy Scouts. But
yeah, I catch myself doing the same thing.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned there a moment ago before we wrap up, that's something we did last night as well. We filled up pots We filled up water bottles just in case, because we did not go out and buy water. I hate nothing more than disposable water bottles, because they're just they're
Right.
one of the major plastic pollutants in the world. So I just couldn't bring myself to do that. But we have a zillion other water bottles. We filled those all up. So something people can do to try to, if you're still fortunate enough to have power, to do that at this time. Rick Wise, thank you so much for joining us and the insight you gave. Again, something as simple as, hey, we could layer up, and we could also put a tent in the living room. And it's not just that. What that does, that encapsulates, that holds in the heat, which is a necessary thing. When you look at some of these temperatures I've shown behind me, and these are wind chill temperatures, that will affect you outside. That's what it will feel like. And obviously, these are current wind chill temperatures up to our north. The reason I'm up here is I wanted to show the actual temperatures that direction. I mean, this is negative 24 below 0 Fahrenheit up there near the Canadian border. And so this is just really cold air that is sliding in from the north. The dense cold air, one of the things, again, that has sat there and helped us to have this unfortunately significant freezing precipitation sort of event that we find ourselves under here at this point in time here in North Mississippi. And so our temperatures will drop substantially going into tonight and into the overnight hours. We expect the temperatures by tomorrow morning could be down into the not just low teens, maybe some single digits possibility with that there. Our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut, I can see behind the scenes here, he's been trying to coordinate with the emergency managers. I know the folks down there in Monroe County are fairly busy. You talked to the emergency manager there. Any information?
Yeah, so I just spoke with our Prentice County emergency manager, and he wanted to apologize. They said that their power is out and the internet is down. So I wanted to make sure to give his apologies to you, Matt, on not being able to join. But we also had our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, working behind the scenes, even though her power is out. She sent us this sent by Jimmy for our Benton County EMA. She said, Benton County, or this is what Jimmy said, Benton County identifies with most of the other counties in North Mississippi with loss of electrical power this morning around 2 a.m. Rain coming down, freezing on everything. Trees are down on houses. Tree limbs are breaking and falling to the ground. 2 warming shelters are open in Ashland. Electrical power has not been restored, and 911 is the only line or phone line operable at this time. So there's an update from the Benton County emergency manager out there. And I also wanted to give another update. This was sent in by the Tom Bigby Electrical Power Association. It's a video out on Facebook showing a downed line, like on the ground on your roads. This was at 9:32, a live update. This line on the ground was reported to be arching by law enforcement. It had stopped by the time we arrived, so we do not have the video of it arching. Law enforcement stayed to keep people safe until we arrived, and we thank them. Our area was off and out of service when it was arching, and electrified generators are in the area. This is a real life example of a generator backfeeding, a real reminder that downed lines are always dangerous. So just wanted to put that out there as well. Seeing those kind of fall to the ground can still be super, super dangerous. Very fortunate that law enforcement found it, kept people out of the area, and allowed the Tom Bigby EPA to get out there and help fix it. So I wanted to kind of bring that to our attention as well. Those are some of the updates I have going on, and we'll continue to keep my eyes out as we continue pushing into our Sunday ahead.
Okay, so meteorologist Caleb Edelblut here. Been working very hard behind the scenes, continuing to get you the information you need as the ice storm comes into and through the area. So temperatures dropping tonight. We're talking dangerously cold conditions. But I want to highlight something that Rick with the Boy Scouts, Scouting America, said a minute ago, and he said, that their power is out, our power is out. In many cases, your power is out. What do you do? First off, I need to stop that fan because it gets warm in this room here I'm in. I say our power's out. We have a limited battery backup for a few locations in our house, but the reserves on that are going pretty quickly. And so we will see how long it is that we still have that. I'm curious to just check, just to give you kind of an update on where the LaPon household is here. I have 56% of our battery power left, and at this kind of drain rate, this will be dead before late this evening. Here at our location as well. So we're kind of in it with you. It's going to be a while, unfortunately, that we're kind of contending with this. So tonight is going to be cold. The number one thing you can do, and this is dead simple, is layer up in your houses. You're going to want not just like big coats and stuff like that, but you want to think a bunch of little layers will help you out. So short sleeve t-shirt, long sleeve t-shirt, sweatshirt, and if it comes to it, and it will in some cases, a coat over top of that. My wife isn't going to like this, but she's going to have to wear socks tonight, or her toes are going to be extremely cold, as will yours. An extra blanket. But layers insulate, and you are the best heater that you have in your house. You or your husband or your wife or significant other, maybe snuggling with your kids, you're all 98.6 degrees. And if you huddle together and you can hold and encapsulate that heat together, you're going to be in better shape. And so, I would also say, keeping everybody in a smaller room. I'm not saying go try to sleep on the bathroom floor. You'll kill each other. Again, you want to keep you'll punch and kill each other. Not anyway. You want to try to, though, contain that heat. Rick mentioned a tent, and even if you're by yourself and you need your kids in one and you're in another, the tent helps to hold in the heat as well. So we need to be thinking about those ways to stay warm as power outages increase. Because, by the way, they will continue to increase. We haven't seen the peak of power outages yet, because the ice is still falling. I know we've spent a lot of time talking about these other things, and that is intentional, because it's pretty clear the ice is still falling and will continue to fall with this for a little while longer. Now, we have seen some improvement, and back here in Greenville, things are looking a little better. So we are looking at the back edge of this starting to move into the state. So we are getting close to over as we get closer to the 10 o'clock hour here again. We expect it'll be early afternoon. But as you'll note here, there's basically no visibility out of our camera there in Greenville because it's iced over. What little bit you can kind of see at the bottom of the screen there, obviously the ground's completely covered in white from the sleet and ice combination that they have had. We'll see if Rolling Fork, we can see some pull up there. Every hour, I got to come in here and I mute my alerts for another hour. Penny, quit asking. It needs to quit coming across my phone. Do you understand? So there's a benefit to still having internet, because we still have internet because fiber internet is independent from the electric power cooperative. So if you can get power to that router, and you can get power to the what they call ONT, or basically the modem, then you're going to still have internet despite the fact you don't have power. Helps for this. Apparently kid with a device with still enough power. Bing, 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 bing. Sorry, your time's up. Let's play cards. Let's get along with one another. There's plenty of ways you can play the old-fashioned way. But looking outside in Rolling Fork, we do have just enough visibility of a tree there that certainly looks like it is kind of bent back a little bit, and lines that are drooping a long ways there. Unfortunately, again, power outages, a lot of spots. I'm very fortunate to be able to have a shot from there at all. As we go up to Greenville, again, that camera iced over. But we're looking, again, this is getting lighter as whatever precipitation is falling is getting a little bit lighter as well. Sliding up there to Cleveland, just the one spot at the top of the screen where you can kind of see something. I'll zoom this in there. Yeah, if you note there, only thing traveling on the road there is an ATV trying to get around in downtown. Luckily not, but look at the plants. I think there's a bank there. I'm going to zoom this in. We'll go too far in because this is not using the optical, but the digital zoom. I know those crepe murals, don't know what that is, but you can see how they're just kind of split flat. The significant ice in Cleveland. But this is one of the most important things. I know I'm zoomed in a long ways on this, but this is the thing that's concerning right there above me. 16 mile per hour winds means we're now taking that ice and we're stressing it. The last two phases of the ice storm portion of this are the ice occurring now, and then the wind component trying to then break limbs, break poles, break whatever out there. Those are the two last portions of the ice component of this before we then look at the other weather component, which is those extremely cold temperatures. And at this point here, the two ways in which you and your family get hurt is if you're going out there and a limb falls on you, and I want to look down the driveway, it's never the one you expect that falls. But I think we lost that pine tree there. So it's a limb falling on you, or Well, there's a couple ways. You could also, step on a power line that isn't fully dead. So never, never, never approach power lines, even if they look dead. But then it's the cold and not respecting the extreme cold. So make sure to check in with your people. Make sure your pets are inside. Single digit low temperatures are on the way. I'm going to show you that 7-day forecast here in a minute. It's been a little while since we've shown that this morning. Give me a second to populate that in here. Nope, that's not the one I want. I want this one here. So here's a look at that 7-day forecast. I know it's keep flashing there. We're going 11 for tomorrow morning. We're going 6 for Tuesday morning. We're going 15 for Wednesday, 16 for Thursday. And yes, this is the part that gets me. The ice has come in, the power's gone out. But we're going to need to cozy up for a few days here because this is a very cold forecast going forward. When your highest temperature is 38, we're going to see some thawing. But it's not impossible. Again, we could have something wintry with next Saturday. Caleb, look behind the scenes at this a little bit. See the positioning of that low. Check where Euro has it. We'll talk about that here in a couple minutes. I have looked very little at that next winter precipitation event because we had to get through what, in my opinion, was and what certainly has become the highest ice storm impact since I've been here. And unfortunately, a mass power outage situation here across North Mississippi. Let's check the latest here on our freezing rain accumulations. Again, new data comes in on this hour by hour. We will roll through this, and then we're going to take an organizational break. We'll kind of refresh things at the top of the hour. But this is the best sign I've seen in a while. This shows additional ice accumulations, about a 1/4 inch or less. Now, that is still, this is how historic this ice storm is. A 1/4 inch of ice would be a very high-end ice event here in the South. Not extreme, but a high-end, like the biggest of the year, the biggest of a couple of years. And this is just the leftover stuff in the next 2 hours. We'll see you in 60 seconds as we get some things organized. Thank you for supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather.
Frozen pipes can cause serious damage. That's why Absolute Restoration is giving away free faucet covers to our community while supplies last. Installing them is easy. Just slide the foam sleeve over your outdoor faucet and secure it snugly. Also remember to disconnect hoses, open cabinet doors under sinks, and let faucets drip during extreme cold. Call or text to check availability, and from our family to yours, please stay warm and protected.
When you've been injured, don't settle for a lawyer who doesn't even know where you live. Call Langston and Lott. Local lawyers, personal service, real results.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off. No tax, 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
Current time is clicking over to 10 a.m. right now. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. We are a local to North Mississippi, locally owned Weather First broadcast group, and we appreciate your support. If you're watching us from outside the area, and I do know we have a fairly large group of folks that are watching us from outside the area, people in Mississippi are going to need your prayers. In some cases, they might need your dollars. But it is going to take time to get things better. Mama Justice Doppler radar here showing the fairly widespread ice and rainfall that we have here across parts of North Mississippi. We typically have a team that's stretched out all across the north part of the state, but because of power outages, most of them can't connect with us. I want to give you an update from our meteorologist, Gabe Mader. I'll show you what a 2-box with Gabe would look like. This is where we kind of put both of us in here at the same time. If you were watching us here in the Room to Room Weather Center last night, this was the last image we had of Gabe when his power went out. His power went out twice. It came back on and then went out for good. Update from Gabe. We're still without power. Woke up at 6 a.m. and saw it wasn't back and the outages were spreading. I was going to call back because I called to check and see if he was going to be able to come with us this morning. But you were live. You know, we're doing good. It's just freezing in the house already. And that is, I think, a lived experience for many of you as well. Our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, also up there in the Tate County area. Maggie, I know you might be watching behind the scenes here. I don't want to burn up your battery on this, but we might try to see if we can touch base with Maggie. Hey, Maggie, would you be willing to come on for just a very short, like 2-minute little blurb about how things are up there, question mark? If not, comma, that's fine, comma. You need to make sure to reserve as much battery power as you can, comma, either way, period. Let me click send on that. Okay, we'll see if we can hear from Maggie. I'll watch where her shot is over here to see if she comes up on that. We've spoken to numerous emergency managers across the region over the course of today. There is almost a complete and unified, agreement among all of them. We probably need to try to touch base with Grenada County, Montgomery County, and also Alcorn County, Caleb, if we can, or Maggie behind the scenes. But it's no matter who we talk to, we're trying to show you these different people because we know you all want to know. It's great that there's all of this, but what about Coffeyville? What about Houston? What about my street? And the answer, you want to hear from your local officials. So we're trying to get you that. But the answer they're all going to tell you is this is going to take time. You are going to see your power outages be restored slowly. We're trying to keep crews safe, and the cold could be very bad on the backside. So we will try to get you those folks in front of you when we can, but the reality is there might not be a whole lot of time for that because this is quickly becoming. So there's two parts to this. Obviously, we have the winter weather. We have some more dry air moving in. This is the beginning of the end, but additional icefall accumulations in excess of 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch are possible. Now, that doesn't sound like much when you've seen more than an inch of ice, but that would typically be a pretty stout little ice storm either way. We look at the kind of composite, and you can see the back edge of this. The dry air is cutting in. And that's a good sign. If you look, well, I'm sorry, I still have Gabe up there and myself next to Gabe. Let's bring this back full screen here. And so here's our shield of precipitation. But watch on the backside, watch the width over the last hour or so starting to come in. I'm going to make this a slightly longer loop here. Let's make this a 3-hour loop, and I think you'll see it more pronounced. So go to the last part here. We'll kind of mark where the front end of the ice is, the whole precipitation band here. So I'm going to mark it back over there toward Birmingham. And we're going 3 hours ago. So the front end over that time has moved, what, about 80 miles over the last 3 hours. The back end has moved, over the last 3 hours, a little farther, right? Has moved about 120 miles. So it's a sign that our band is starting to shrink a little bit more. And that is the dry air kind of cutting in the backside. So we are close to the end of what has been basically a 36-hour plus icing event here across parts of North Mississippi. And I know there's some people out there that are over here in Amory and Louisville and Columbus, and you have been blessed enough that you have not seen much ice. And that has helped. Columbus, you guys have won the lottery on this one. You really, really have. Power outage percentages, and these are often low. The percent of people without power is higher than what I'm showing you here, because I know for a fact, looking behind the scenes, that it's not 0.8% of people there in Boonville that are out. It's a lot more. Maggie's up and going. I'm going to pull her up so she can conserve that battery power, because I don't want to waste any of that, because I know, she got that it's cold outside face on right now. Oh, Maggie, Maggie. How much colder is it outside than inside?
Well, now listen, our house is cold right now, and we're trying to also conserve power in keeping it a little bit cooler than I would prefer, I would say.
Hold on, we'll see. She might be getting the edge of Wi-Fi. There's a lot of data disruptions we have out there.
Ongoing.
There we are. Is it?
If you can hear me, I'm going to try to stay closer.
Are you holding it, or is the gizmo kind of bouncing all over like that?
It's kind of bouncing. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep it.
Okay, go ahead
correct.
and make sure the power back on. It might flip. on you, but make sure to power it back on.
There we go. Now it's working.
Okay.
Either way, though, we are still seeing sleet. I know you've been tracking that. And a lot of us waking
Mhm.
up without power. We're still dealing with on and off power. So I'm trying to overall prep where I can when we are having good conditions in the household, right? Meal prepping. I know a lot of people have kiddos and things like that. I know I have a little baby in the house that you kind of have to think beyond yourself. And that makes things a little bit hard sometimes on what do they need? What are we going to need for, depending on if the power goes completely out for how many days. So definitely still, thinking through those things this morning. I know we've been thinking through them all week, but it's different when it's here. It's different when it's real, right? So continuing to just make sure everything is going good. And I'll just keep showing you our yard and our neighborhood's just complete whiteout kind of situation behind me. And sleet still just continuing to fall. I know we talked to a few of our church members as well, as their power has kind of been on and off too. So that just kind of seems to be the situation here in Tate County. And I know there's some power outages across the area. I was going to look at that with Energy as well, as who has power completely out this morning instead of just that on and off situation. But still, Matt, I mean, on and off and this continuing to fall, it doesn't give me great hope about the situation, maybe tonight and tomorrow.
Yeah, the cold is concerning. If you lift that thing up and flip it, there's a way in which it bends at the front, like right underneath it. There's a place where it kind of bends, and it'll point it more toward you. If you notice, like a physical bend on it, like where you can bend, like the whole. There's a pivot point there.
Pivot point. Let me try.
That's okay.
Maybe. I don't know. I think I'm messing it up more than
that's okay.
helping
So
myself.
if you flip it up in the air,
Sorry.
it'll follow you. Like if you go up in the air with it, it'll kind of follow you down. So that way, there you go.
Like this? Oh.
Yeah.
I'm learning on the fly. I promise I messed
you
with
one.
this earlier, but I just couldn't figure it all the way out.
Yeah. Well, hey, looks like thankfully
Anyways,
a lot of what you
but you
got
can
was
probably
sleep.
hear that sleet bouncing off my hood.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely, we can. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I'd like to maybe briefly check in with you again a little later on. But I think, and you can see the map behind me as we kind of talk. I'll go to the regular, I guess, 2 box with us. Looking at the totals there. I mean, 900 folks there in Senatobia and in Tate County out. You don't have to go far away where you are just surrounded by a lot larger numbers. 2,000, it's way more than 20,000 in Lafayette County. More than 5,000. I mean, down south. You guys, we talked about it would be between you and me that really got it, and unfortunately, that has been the case.
And that was exactly the case, which I hate. I know you said this. We didn't want to be right about this, but worst case scenario, this was what was going to happen, and what it was looking like, and now we're waking up to that exactly being true. Right, between me and you, a ton of ice and a ton of power outages out here. On your Sunday, it seems like maybe the outskirts of Tate County is who's seeing power completely out. So I just got a text from a church member, and she lives a little bit further out in the county. So maybe those county roads and that situation seeing more of a power outage than those closer to town as of late. Anyway, but hey, whenever you want to update, just text. I'm going to go put my phone though back on the charger.
I know, and in the moment you've got it,
the
you
things
have
that I
to.
can do.
Is Maya okay?
Yep. Maya's good. She's chilling. She's looking out the door thinking, what in the world's going on to my yard? But she's good right now. Yep. We're making her food while we can, heating it up, giving her some warm stuff.
I appreciate that. That's our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley. Of course, our Caleb Edelblut down there in the Golden Triangle. We'll talk a little bit more to Caleb coming up here in a couple minutes. Appreciate you both for helping us, everyone at home alongside us here as we go. So what does blue mean? So as you look at the top here, this is basically the percent of people in each county out of power. And this is right and wrong. For a lot of these counties, I mean, it gives you kind of a bullseye. Where has the greatest impact been? Because if I show you just the number of power outages on there, it doesn't, New Albany doesn't pop up. Some of these places don't. But that's because this goes just based on the number of people. And you can have counties where there's a greater overall impact, but a lower overall population, so it makes it look like it's not as bad as it is in some. So I particularly look at the percentage here, because then that helps us to see the greatest impact. But even that, someone was asking a moment ago about Prentiss County. And let's look at Prentiss County, because that one there is one that is worse than what this shows. So I'll kind of pop that up here behind the scenes on my behind the scenes computer. This is Prentiss County, and I believe that number's higher than last time. We do expect these numbers to keep going up. We're not, I think, to complete outage here. We're getting closer up there in Prentiss County. The Prentiss County Electric Power Association now with 7,700 power outages, a number that keeps going up, and that is not shocking. We are still accumulating ice. Trees are still coming down. We expect more of those to probably continue to come down as we go forward here, because unfortunately, it's just a bad setup, and we're going to have some wind on the backside, and that's not going to make things any better. We'll go around at some of the power cooperatives that we do have access to some of these. I know there are more out there. I've just got 10 million tabs on my computer, and I don't need to slow it down any more than I probably should. But this is from the Pontotoc Electric Power Association. Again, the pink on here is just widespread outages. It shows 12,000 in that connected area there, and a lot of individual outages as well. Total outages, I'm going to step this way. A lot of these power cooperatives use a similar service for this. So the data is on similar spots. If I kind of position myself here, you can see both the data and that at the same time. But we show, what is that? 15,800 of their customers out of power. And looking at the map, that's pretty much everybody. A catastrophic ice storm 2026 that has taken shape here. This particular website does a great job of crashing my computer because it's so precise with all of these. But the Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Cooperative there, as you can see beside me, out of a possible 30,500 members, about 6,000 members still have power. And that's not necessarily people or population, that's just meters, I believe, typically is the way that works. Another way to look at that is kind of graphing it by county and showing you that 100% of their folks in Benton County, again, a large number of people are out of power. 99.2% of people that they cover in Marshall County, and that is about 1,000 folks. Pontotoc County, 98% of people without a power. Union County, 98.4%. And then Lafayette, where again, they have them the majority, but you have 77.6% of people, over 3/4, 3 out of 4 households without power there that they serve with the Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association. I spoke to them a few years ago, and I will say this now as I said it then. My grandpa, on my dad's side, was a lineman. Put up the lines all around the county of Russell County, Kansas, growing up. If he wasn't safe, I wouldn't be here. So we need to make sure that these men and women that work to get the power on can be safe. And the reason why the numbers continue to go up, number one, the icing impact continues, but also the fact that the wind could pick up, and that combination means that there is significant danger out there in this icing situation. Now, for those of you who wanted snow, and you saw on that impact graphic, it shows snow on the very back side of this for about that long. You might see snow, not accumulating snow, but you might see just a little bit of snow or a little bit of sleet. But this is kind of the back side of the activity starting to finally sort of move into our area at this time. I'm going to check some other electric power cooperatives as we're continuing to kind of assess where things stand at this point here. Tom Bigby Electric Power Association, about 7,500 of their members without power, including, again, substantial outages on the north side here. This is the same outage took out our Gabe Maynard, that's taken out the Law Pond residents here, and a lot of other folks in the northern part of Lee County. The individual outages that you see on this map, there's just a lot of those there, and you know, that's one of the things. If it was in a storm, a lot of times it's one spot, one weak point gets hit hard, and to get the power back on, you just have to get that one area isolated and then fixed and then back on. In this, it might be at the end of your driveway and in the driveway of 2 blocks down, and there. You know, that really starts to obviously add up. We're getting quite a few email photos here coming in as well. I'll tell you the easiest way to get your photographs to us And I'm going to go through some of these here in a minute. We're just trying to walk people through the end of this. But the best way to do that is using the Mississippi Live Weather app. I complete with these power cooperatives. We'll go over that. Fork County Electric, again, their numbers are coming down somewhat. They're in a more fortunate situation in that they've had some icing, but they've also had points where it was a little bit warmer. The folks over there at Fork County Electric Power Cooperative, we're looking at 5,200. I got to step a little farther this way on their map. 5,200 customers affected, but 194 total individual outages. That means 194 places on here where it's 1, 3 people, 2 customers, 1 person, 1. That's what takes days and in some cases weeks to fix, is those individual outages. Because it's not just one line that needs to be fixed, it's individual crews figuring out how to do it and having the manpower to get there and cut their way in and do it. Natchez Trace Power Association, we show 4,900 of their customers out. This would be some parts of Chickasaw County, Calhoun County, back into Webster County. I mean, the pinks on here, each one of those 300 plus, we're talking large outages for large swaths of our friends and neighbors here in North Mississippi. It looks like Entergy has decided to do what big companies do on this. We'll see if we can get their map back up and going here in a moment. And again, they have a larger footprint, but as you can see, extending back there into Louisiana, pretty significant power outages. We have a friend up, might try to see if we can get him on here eventually, Jared Floyd. Let's see here. Okay, we'll look at that as well. Maggie talking about the other end of this event, which is a severe weather and tornado chance. Thankfully not for us, but not that far removed as well. But again, significant widespread outages for one of the other people in the National Weather Network. That'd be Jared Floyd out there in, I think it's Digital Weather Desk is his platform back in Monroe, Louisiana. But you can clearly see where the ice was most significant. And while this is not the most populated area in between there, we definitely continue to still have a lot of power outages. And that's what you're dealing with out here in Yazoo City or Rolling Fork or up there in Hollandale. Greenville largely missed out on the worst of it, and I think that's because you ended up with a little more sleet. I'm looking for something very, very important here. If I check this Greenville camera, I'm going to start checking it a little bit more, because what I would like to see is I'd like to see it getting a little lighter. So I'll see if that's going to come in. We'll check our camera there in Greenville. See it getting a little brighter, even though it's iced over. When it gets brighter, and is it moving? I think that's still updating. Yeah. That'll be a sign that we've kind of put it to an end. But unfortunately, the temperature continued to drop there in Greenville down to, at this time, 21 degrees. Join the conversation ongoing at MS on all of our different social media platforms there, Facebook, YouTube, and X, the main ones in which you can talk with us on there. As we look back again, when it's this widespread, it's not just it's power lines, it's poles, Grenada. Again, a large portion of Grenada County there, Winona, locations around Winona, all out of power. We've checked these various cameras over and over again just to kind of see which ones are still in play, because there's just so many power outages. Greenwood kind of all around the outsides of town there, some power outages as well. And I think this camera remains still, I think this is our final image we have there in Winona, as I'll kind of bring it back over there to that camera. Yeah, reporting station not going, and I think that's the same image we had before. So power loss there at our camera location in Winona. And a lot of these cameras, I don't think that one was necessarily on a Fork County tower, but because I think that's just outside of their area, because it's clearly Entergy. But luckily, a lot of those that have been on the towers for Fork County have been pretty resilient out there as well. But yeah, some significant power outages. Grenada up to Charleston. Speaking of Charleston, former TV station alum Joel Young, sent me. I need to look at the video and get it on here. I might be able to get it out there, but it's a power meter, ripped off, some issues that they had at his house, his parents' house there in the Delta. So this affects a lot of folks and everybody. Batesville, our camera there, just right on the edge of that power outage on the north side of the Entergy coverage area here. And that, again, you can even there, looking into the hole, or yes, Penny. Okay. But yeah, they need to email. Actually, they need to go to the website. But yeah, some of these trees, again, kind of split open a little more. We're going to take a brief break here. I have to take care of that for a second. I'll be back with more Mississippi Live weather here in just a moment. Talking about those temperatures dropping again tonight, we are expecting temperatures to go down into the teens. It's going to be rough. More after this as Mississippi Live weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center.
I have been going to Tupelo Smiles my whole life. When I was a kid, I was unhappy about some uneven coloring on my teeth after getting my braces off, which at the time there really wasn't a fix. I was recently made aware of a solution that would totally fix it, which is exactly what we did. They not only heard my concerns, but they never stopped looking to solve my problem, and that's why I love Tupelo Smiles.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather, a 24/7 streaming service based out of Tupelo, Mississippi, covering local weather in North Mississippi. Power outages continue to plague locations. We have wintry precipitation still falling, and it's been doing so for more than 36 hours in some spots. Temperature shows up 34 degrees. We're hopeful that maybe that's rainfall and not freezing, something else that's going there. And ultimately, it is rain that is falling. The question is whether or not it's rain that is freezing. You're looking out of our Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling Skycam on the south side of Tupelo, and it is just kind of a sea of glazed trees, basically as far as the eye can see. Those trees stressed, in some cases snapping, in some cases causing significant power outages. We're hopeful that if you abide by what we should do, that we stay at a location inside, at a safe place, and try to stay warm, and don't go out, and don't let tree limbs fall on us, and don't go looky-looing. There will be time to go and help people. And obviously, if there's an immediate emergency need, you do what you need to do. But we need to largely be sheltering where we're at for a little while longer. And in the time I've been sitting up here talking about this in the Room to Room Weather Center, 32 degrees that temperature in Tupelo. It was 34 at the beginning, 32. That is that fluctuation back and forth as that reporting station at Tupelo Regional Airport going back and forth on that side. So I think at this camera location, which is on the south side of Tupelo, we might be just a smidge above the freezing point. But out at the airport and locations north of that, which is where I would be, this latest band to come through is ice. And it is really the less fortunate and the more fortunate in this situation, because if you're down here in Columbus and you tend to watch us here on Mississippi Live, you're probably saying, what is the big deal? Because you have been blessed. Now that temperature is dropping and those roadways are wet. So it remains possible that we could have a few iced over and slick roadways before this is said and done, as temperatures go into the 20s and maybe even teens for some spots tonight. But Caledonia kind of been one of those spots as well that's been a little bit more fortunate than other locations. We're looking off the water tower there. We're looking down toward some power lines yesterday. That's why we have this aesthetically pleasing shot off of that. But ultimately, we're looking for power lines, and when they were iced, and you have been very fortunate, at least near this location, near the school, that we have not had those issues there. Macon, our camera, again, cloudy, and one of our warmest spots, largely avoiding the worst of this, one of the few counties that was never included in that ice storm warning. But as we kind of check out conditions there around the Golden Triangle, and we are seeing, again, some drier air starting to push in, and more dry air will mix in, and that will be the end of this event. So Columbus, you might miss out on all of it. It's just whether or not those roads end up freezing for you as well. We go over toward Louisville, and you're kind of at that freezing line. Kosciuszko, on the iced over side there, at least according to Mama Justice Doppler radar. But if we kind of check out our camera there in Kosciuszko, get a real-time analysis on what things look like. And again, that's the purpose of these cameras. That looks wet. And I don't have that same kind of sort of gray hue to the trees there. So just wet. Kosciuszko, things have worked out. Now, that's not to say that this couldn't cause some icing at the tail end. You know, we would typically be highly concerned with 2 or 3 or 4 hours of icing. And we have probably 2 hours left of that potential here in Kosciuszko. But just considering the massive ice storm that we are in the midst of here, 2 hours doesn't sound like much. Deborah on the Books of Face over there. No, she's on YouTube. She mentions that, hey, it looks like a winter wonderland. It does, but for folks where those trees are popping out there, and I get that might be you and looking for a positive, and I like that positive. But some folks out there, I heard my first gunshot trees popping last night. That was an experience for sure. I want to bring Caleb Edelblut, who is one of the other members of our team here. He is in the Golden Triangle. Caleb, you have largely avoided some of the worst of it, but you've also been able to keep power on as well. So some things lining up well for you, thankfully. The only one of us that actually has real power. I'm on a little backup battery here. My question for you is, anything you're seeing on social media of great importance you need to pass along? Because I know you're kind of monitoring that while I'm trying to watch all this.
Yes, no, I actually wanted to mention two things. Update for Starkville region. I think our biggest issue hasn't really been power outages. It's been more of these really cold temperatures that are making pipes burst. I've heard more feedback and news from my friends on talking about apartment complexes losing water. And so that's kind of a big deal here in Oktibbeha County with those pipes bursting, and especially for apartment complexes. This isn't just maybe a house or a room. This is just entire apartments losing water and the ability for that to run. So news coming out of Starkville for that, but also I've been checking social media, and I wanted to give an update. This is from the Pontotoc EPA update. We've been trying to get a video of General Manager Frankie Morman online, but have not been able. We apologize for not being able to get the video up, but here is the synopsis of his comments. We had a rough night last night. We called in all line crews, right-of-way crews, and engineers when we started having a few outages. We knew we would have a battle ahead of us. We were gaining ground, getting things back on. Within a 30-minute time frame, we had so many lines and limbs down, we lost everything we had worked for last night. We worked until 5:30 a.m. Conditions were getting too dangerous to continue. Currently, we have 19,000 outages. We are surveying conditions as freezing rain continues to fall, bringing lines and limbs to the ground. We plan to work until dark tonight. After that, our duty crew will be on standby for emergency calls only. We will start back Monday at daylight. Please let us know about down power lines. It will take several days to get power back to everyone. We would greatly appreciate your patience. We will do our very best, and I will do another update this evening. So that was posted by the Pontotoc EPA, just letting you know kind of what's going on, what those current conditions have been, and quite frankly, they've been pretty harsh for us here in North Mississippi.
They have been. Our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, continue watching things there behind the scenes. Thank you so much. Appreciate that information. We're going to look again at some of those power outages as well. This is, like he said, that is a large geographic area to just think about driving, having to drive to and around every back road in your county. And that's not even taking time to try to fix things there, all these individual spots, and get the equipment it takes there. So massive number of power outages there, showing up with almost 16,000 in their coverage area power outages at this time. One of the first counties to start experiencing just mass power outages was Tishomingo County, and unfortunately things are not better there this morning. I'm a step wrong way. I'm trying between there, but as you can see on this graph, kind of right next to me there, the number of power outages kind of has leveled off some, but of the people served, we have 12,625 affected people, affected customers, and 15,638 served. So you're talking less than 2,000 right there, almost 2,000 customers with power, as opposed to all of them that are without. And it's the same issue you had in Pontotoc County. It is this ice. They started experiencing some of the issues first, and it is widespread. I mean, the thing you see next to me here, if you want to just look at there, I'm going fast. This is how precise these systems are, that they can, they know that. So calling them nonstop is not going to fix it. It's not going to move you up the priority list. They're going to do the best they can as quickly as they can. But clearly, as you can see there, the list is very, very long. And that is something shared by a lot of these other folks as well. Again, we talked about the Prentiss County Electric Power Association earlier. I'll try to step to this side here. Nope, putting it behind me. There, they show about 7,700 outages as of the latest update. In Tippah County, we're looking at around 10,000 for Tippah Electric Power Association. It does go a little bit into Benton County there as well. The majority of those, again, we're looking at Blue Mountain along Highway 8 there. I think that's Highway 15, gosh. Ashland there, back toward Ashland, obviously east of that on Ashland Road in Tippah County. But yeah, so quite a few large numbers of outages there in Tippah County as well. You might say, oh, well, it's up north, it's up south. That Faulkner outage is one of their biggest ones, where that says 783. I think that might mean they might not have the new meters in there where they can look at the point by point by point on that there. But ultimately, yeah, what they've done is they've bundled all the calls on that. So it makes it look like it's bad north and bad south. The reality is bad everywhere that they cover with that. And then we have not talked recently about, I think, this Tallahatchie Electric. And this is, and again, these maps, they get real slow on my system because all of these are pulling a ton of data because it's all a bunch of point data. Let's see if I can make this go update every 5 minutes. But they have 2,200 members affected in their area. But the thing that just catches my attention is all the ones. One person here, one person there. That's where the real significant, substantial time to try to put this back together comes in. A lot of those in Panola County, some of those in Lafayette County. Looks like there's probably some there, Yalobusha County as well. So I think also Tallahatchie County. That map has decided that it is taking the rest of the afternoon off or morning off. It's still morning, right? So we'll move on from that. Okay, speaking of Panola County, we do have a camera there with our network going on with North Mississippi Storm Chasers, our camera up there in Batesville. No reporting station there. That is down, but it does look like the camera. I'm not sure that might be updating. I can't really tell. 50-50, that's still updating there. Of course, you can join the conversation, join our chat. People asking, do certain places have power? If you've got power, Guntown Hills, you're doing great. Union County, obviously, we are still adding a little bit of ice. And I know if you're one of those folks, dude, kicking that phone on for just a moment here, there is still some icing out there. But if I pull up, the cameras I have access to in Union County, we're going to look there along Interstate near the Toyota plant. It's not still night. That's just the moment in time in which things froze at that Department of Transportation camera. It looks toward the Toyota plant. I'm sure they have some kind of generator system there, but I doubt they're probably full-on generator. But again, I don't know that for sure. This is one of those things that causes these power disruptions. It causes work disruptions as well. Speaking of disruptions, as you can see there, Pontotoc, kind of same story. Most locations, same issues there as well. Lots of ice, again, continuing to still fall from this, but we're starting to see the backside of this now move through Indianola, Cleveland there. I have not checked the Cleveland cam in a minute. Let's see if we can pull that one up. Oops, I think I might click Clarksdale instead. Yeah, that one's still working there in Clarksdale and looking toward the trees. Those are much better than some other locations. So very fortunate. I think this is Shelby, still iced in 21. And if you look at some of these temperatures, like say over in Tupelo or Fulton, and you're sitting here a lot warmer, where it's been in Fulton in particular, it's been largely water as opposed to ice. I mean, you can see those trees kind of at the top of the screen there. They don't have that same sort of white gray hue that some of the other trees have had. And then, Tupelo coming in around 32 degrees. That is a pretty substantial difference. between what we have out in the Delta. So again, another band of this kind of mix of freezing rain. It's rain. It's just attempting to freeze when it gets to the surface. That's kind of the contrast there. And we'll slide back again and look out there toward Cleveland. You know, one of my favorite cameras is, I think, the Cleveland camera. We've got a good shot there in downtown. Have a good shot of the flag. Can't see that today, iced over, but we're going to get things figured out and get things figured out soon. I've read this a few times today. I'm going to look it up again, so give me just a moment to try to get this out, because, you know, a lot of what I'm saying, hold on. I can do a lot of things, but I can't type and think at the same time. A lot of things we're saying probably are the kinds of things that don't bring up a lot of positive thoughts and hope and bring up anxiety. Do want to let you know something that came down last night that you may have missed. FEMA has approval and has announced as of yesterday that the federal disaster assistance is going to be available to the state of Mississippi to supplement response efforts due to the emergency conditions resulting from the severe winter storm that began on Friday and is continuing. The president, Donald Trump's actions authorized FEMA to coordinate all disaster relief efforts to alleviate the hardship and suffering caused by the emergency on the local population, to provide appropriate assistance to save lives, protect property, public health, safety, and to lessen and avert the threat of catastrophe in all of the 82 counties, the Mississippi Band and Choctaw Indians as well. Specifically, FEMA is authorized to identify, mobilize, and provide at its direction equipment and resources necessary to alleviate the impacts of this emergency. Emergency protective measures limited to direct federal assistance under the Public Assistance Funding Program will be provided at 75% federal funding. In talking to emergency managers today, what that means is they've got the green light to do everything they can, because one of the struggles sometimes in a disaster is there are things that they can do, but if they don't get reimbursed, tax money doesn't come out of nowhere. So this says that they don't have a blank check, but for things that are reasonable, they're going to be able to get reimbursed, and so they can get the people and the resources in place to try to alleviate the issues that we are dealing with due to this weather situation that has come in. So I'm thankful that the government, some people might not like that statement there, but fortunately, there's going to be assistance needed. And luckily, there have been resources from other states that has been staged in our region or around our region, preparing for this event, so that as soon as the ice stops falling and the wind and the potential for branches to immediately start dropping subsides, that the folks are going to be out there doing the best that they can to put things back. But we've still got a little bit longer that we are contending with this, unfortunately. As we look at the threats, and again, this has been one of the things we've talked quite a bit about over the last couple of days. We've shown this, that ice storm warning still in effect. Double check, make sure my battery and stuff is all good. Real good here. That was weird, because it's not like we can take a power hit unless that was my truck. Hold on, give me just a second here. Caleb, you might have new information. I'll pop you up for a second while I am going to check and see whatever that was, because my screen's all kind of freaked out a moment ago there. Caleb, what you got?
Okay. Well, right now, still kind of skimming through everything. I've seen some posts that our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, is posting, which actually we could probably just go to his account and see the latest. He's really good at finding a lot of stuff happening across North Mississippi. He's been finding a lot of pictures of, unfortunately, a lot of kind of destruction and just fallen trees across our area. This one is debris cluttered on a car in Rhinesey from the falling limbs. So that is one of the things that first thing I did here at my house, even though we were kind of on the line of where those peak threats were, but moved that over, took our cars over to the front of our house, put those wipers up, trying to remove them from trees. But that is one of the risks that have come with this. There's another one. I love people that send in pictures like this, about a 1/2 inch in diameter of ice wrapped around the limbs. That's significantly weighing down those limbs with how much weight is added. So even though we only talk about a quarter of an inch, in this case, 1/2 inch. Yes, sir?
Are you looking at a computer where you're showing that picture?
Yes.
Go ahead and just take your phone and point it at it if you want to.
Okay.
Just to kind of show people what you're looking at there. I know that's not the prettiest way to do this, but it works.
Let's see if I can Let me see if I can. The only bad thing is I won't be able to see. We'll see
Yeah,
if
I
we
know
can do
you're
it
not
this
gonna be
way.
able to see. So
There
you
we
do
go.
that's good. That's framed up. Okay, go for it.
Perfect. So yeah, here are some pictures that our meteorologist Gabe Maynor has been posting, kind of showing the ice literally wrapped around the tree branch. So just added weight, and that's what's responsible for hearing those loud cracks across your backyard, front yard, anywhere within the neighborhood. We keep scrolling. Here's some damage that was on a trampoline out there in Pontotoc. So damage to swing set and trampoline. You can already kind of see some of those big limbs. Let's click this to enlarge it just so we can see. I mean, huge limbs. I mean, those are probably those gunshot sounds you're hearing outdoors of those trees quite literally snapping and falling to the ground. Here's another clean snap that you can see out there. So we appreciate you guys sitting in these pictures, and we hate that this is occurring, but y'all are also our eyes and ears out there. We can kind of see what's going on. Here's another one, which actually, let's see where this was at before I click on it. This is in Walnut as tree limbs continue to fall along the freezing rain. So here's some good examples of all those limbs that have snapped in their yard. You can even see all the ice protruding off of those branches. And I mean, look at that, how much they're bending and curving with all this added weight. So those could, I mean, snap at any moment. And this is why not only do you want to stay at your house, but stay indoors as well, because you could walk outside, and if you're walking along those trees, could definitely, those could fall at any moment. So dangerous conditions still here across North Mississippi. You can see all that ice forming. And I mean, we prefer to see something like this on the shrubs, on the ground, not really affecting us, but still kind of showing that those conditions are still very evident all across North Mississippi. Here's another example of those trees sagging, is how he described it. This was off of West Jackson and Tupelo, so out in Lee County, photo by Maddie, and you can already see kind of that curving that is taking place here with all that added weight. So imagine that still on the power lines as well. That's kind of what those updates I sent earlier or read out from our local EPAs, just talking about how makes those power lines start to bend down. Eventually they can snap, and they'll still be live at times. So definitely want to be very careful with that. Here's an awesome video that I got sent earlier as well. It's showing these limbs actually snapping and falling, and you can hear them, especially with the sound turned on, which actually, well, let me do that real quick, because I can just press this. Oh, well, you can hear me. We'll turn that off. There we go. And let's watch this again. Watch the tree snap.
Caleb, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to maintain some power situations here at the house for a minute.
Okay.
So if you want to keep talking for a second, you can. I can. Yeah, I would say, if you have some other stuff to talk about. If you don't, that's fine. I need about 2 minutes if you can give me that.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Which, let me see if I can. I'm going to refresh this Facebook page, see if we have any more updates. Perfect. Here we go. This is the Tom Bigby EPA. They posted this 9 minutes ago. This is an outage update. Real footage of a live wire on the ground. Beware of down lines. They aren't always this obvious. This is what we were just talking about with having that weight get added. And they added this video, which I can turn around so y'all can see it. And they mentioned it's not always this obvious. Of course, this one, very obvious, but showing that downed line affecting those out there. The Tom Bigby Electrical Power Association posted this. So very dangerous conditions out there across North Mississippi. And so just want to keep emphasizing that this ice, although it can be pretty at times and fun to look at, the weight of it, figuratively and literally, is rough on any power lines or trees. So definitely want to make sure that you continue taking this very seriously as that ice continues to move on out of North Mississippi. We're getting closer towards the end. I know this started Friday night for some of us, and thankfully getting closer towards it finishing. But we're closer to the end. And then there's more updates kind of along North Mississippi, just kind of showing more of the damage that's occurring across our area. I've already read out all the school closings that I've seen along North Mississippi, and then also those EPAs kind of giving their updates as well, which actually on my end, let me see if I can pull up current radar, which I can do that on this real quick. Bear with me. just because usually I can do this up in the studio, and we're doing a little makeshift at home situation. So looking at this, definitely still seeing some icy conditions move across North Mississippi. You kind of see what I'm looking at. This won't be your standard that you're seeing on Matt's screen, where it shows kind of where that freezing precipitation is occurring. This is kind of showing where that rainfall is and where it's a lot heavier, but we can definitely tell where it's going to be a lot more of that freezing rain, and that's up there in Oxford and Lafayette County, up in Union, as well, up in Lee County. So just showing kind of still seeing these conditions move across North Mississippi. And if I were to pull up the Jackson radar, there's still stuff happening towards the south. So that's going to eventually make its way towards us. I can even put this in loop just to see as that continues to make its way through. So not the best visualization, of course. I wish I was in the studio to give y'all that, but want to make sure that we are staying home and staying safe, especially if I'm going to keep preaching about it. I want to do that for you guys as well, to show y'all that we really mean it and we care about y'all's safety here in North Mississippi. But let me go back to Facebook real quick, continue scrolling to see if there's any updates while Matt gets the last little bit of power back up, which I think I'm starting to hear him just a little bit. North Mississippi Storm Chasers, they posted this 35 minutes ago. It's that updated power outage map as of 10:05. So around 35 minutes ago, Matt still facing those power outages here. And also, I believe we have Evan Gibbons here from Alcorn. Wanted to give us the very
gosh,
latest.
I'm so sorry.
Just wanted to
go
let
ahead.
you know.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to keep him waiting because I know he's busy. Let me get that up there. Thank you, Caleb. Okay. Who do we have here? I'm so sorry. I was my power situation. It's kind of down at the house, and so I'm trying to get as much off of the thing that we're doing here as possible. So okay, go ahead. Who do we have? It looks like he might have left us here, so we might have to try to get him back again. I don't know how. I'll bring Caleb back here for just a moment. So I find out how long he was waiting, and that might be the issue because he's a busy man. So I apologize for that. This should still come up here in a moment. See if I can bring Caleb back. Hey, Caleb, I feel bad about that. How long was he waiting?
He popped up the last few minutes. I just couldn't bring him up myself. Probably last 5-ish minutes. I just sent him a text because he told me he was on there. But it'll be Evan Gibbons for Alcorn. But hopefully he'll be back. I just sent him a text that you were trying to bring him back up. But I know he's also extremely busy.
Evan Gibbons. I'm sorry.
Evan Gibbons. Gibbens.
Gibbens. Thank you. Well, I feel real bad about that. And I can't, unfortunately, the box where I can see it, I can't really see it very well based on all my monitors. So let me kind of reorganize some things here.
Good.
See that better. Oh, man. Well, Alcorn County is in a rough shape as far as that concerned, unfortunately, there. So that's, okay. So, no, hey, Emily. Yeah, I know the power's going to be out for a little bit. Let's just wait. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Trying to figure out, again, get some things done. What I did a second ago is I was moving as much as I could onto the truck and off of the backup battery at the house. So, yeah, I think we've kind of got that figured out. Okay, I apologize for kind of cratering, things. Of course, you had great information there, Caleb, and I appreciate you for kind of keeping people up to date as we're trying to kind of balance about 5 or 6 things here as well. So our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, there in the Oktibbeha County area this morning. Again, these are our threats at this time. We still have ice ongoing and will continue to fall for a little bit. And unfortunately, this has proven to be accurate prognostication of kind of the peak impacts where we have seen, because this lines up almost perfectly with where we've had the maximum issues. And so I would still say for you in Columbus, maybe just a hint of ice the last second. I don't think it's going to be maybe a ton of travel disruptions, but there still will continue to be a few issues as that kind of pushes into and through the area and the last side of this event moves through. But unfortunately, icing still occurring, and we have the potential for some wind to possibly kick up on the back side of this system to a certain extent here. I need to double check. I'm not sure if our Facebook Live is still up. Nope, that is. Huh. My computer here has done something weird. So hard to say what that was doing there. Okay, hold on. I got Alcorn County EMA with me now. Apologize that we left you hanging there. Hey, Evan, I really feel bad about. Yeah, but we were trying to. So we do have backup batteries in the house, but they were going when we started this morning. They were about 75%, and we dropped below 50. And I knew that we weren't going to make it tonight at that, so I had to pull basically everything and put it on the truck that I could. I think we're good now. So, but obviously we are fortunate, and we know you guys up in Alcorn County. It's been a rough go for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It has. So just to give you a little update on what we've got going on here, 100% of all meters are out in Alcorn County. Our facility here at my office is on generator power. TVA transmission lines have also been down for all of our substations per Ace Power. We do have reports of trees on houses. We have trees and roadways, power lines and roadways. Travel is very much treacherous at this time countywide. We have severe widespread damage to roadway infrastructures from those trees and such, as well as some houses have reported damage as well. Right now, we are assisting in getting individuals who have been displaced to our shelter. We do have a shelter up and running at Gospel Tabernacle. And for any of our local people that's needing that address is 1624 Glover Drive, Corinth, Mississippi. They are on generator power. We can house you if you call us. We will arrange transport as best we can. It may take us a while to get to you based on the road conditions, but we are doing everything that we possibly can to assist everyone that calls us. We are calling on our community right now. We need all hands. So please check on your neighbors. Do anything that you possibly can to assist them and giving them adequate shelter. If you don't mind, you know your neighbors, you can bring them into the fold. That would be great. We also ask that you limit travel, as again, as I mentioned, roads are very treacherous at this time, and our emergency crews and linemen are out doing everything they possibly can. But extra traffic can add to the hazards for them as well. So please, if it is not necessary, please stay off the roadways. And for right now, that's about all the update that I have to give. We are still very much in the initial response phase of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's still sad to say it's still an ongoing event, right? You know, and so about how many? You said 100% of customers there on Ace Alcorn County Electric out of power at this point. Was that correct? Oh, we might have lost him. He might have got a phone call. That happens from time to time there with that app. I'm going to give him a minute. I'm going to leave that up there. But that was a statistic that just, again, as we've talked about, I think these numbers on the percentage of power outages are underdone on here. But if he's got to move on, you know, he's got the, you know, life and property, you know, comes back to what they're doing there. I will say the Evan, that this does continue in a browser, so you do have to kind of swipe up to make it go away. Otherwise, it'll just kind of keep on going when he puts it in his pocket. That's why I think if I say, hey, Loudy. Now, I did get a little feedback there for a moment, so I thought maybe that was the case. But yeah, a large portion of folks without power over a large swath of the area. You start again, and this is an underestimate on the percentages of people out of power in many of the counties that you're looking at here. Hey, Evan, sorry about that. I know
that's okay. I got a phone call. We got disconnected.
No, I absolutely. And you're doing your job, and I am 100% okay with that. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. But I just wanted to clarify one thing that you said, because I know my system's underdoing it, and you proved by a lot. You said 100% of customers with Alcorn County Electric are out of power.
That is what Ace Power has reported to me, that 100% of our county is out.
Man, that's crazy. It's crazy to think, you know, so obviously stay home, stay safe. And I guess, you know, patience, as we said over and over again, probably the most important word over the next week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, like I said, we are working diligently. Police, fire, EMS, we are doing everything we possibly can to assist everyone and get them what they need. But it is a very slow response at this time.
Okay, that's Evan Gibbons, Alcorn County Emergency Manager. Thank you so much for speaking with us. I know you had a billion things to do, but we appreciate you giving us your time this morning. Thank you so much. And
Yes,
we'll
sir.
talk.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be talking to you in the upcoming days.
Yes, sir.
Okay, as we kind of bring it back here and take a look at all of those power outages, I mean, clearly they are widespread, they are significant, and they are still ongoing and will be ongoing for, let's be clear, for weeks. And unfortunately, we are not alone. When you kind of look at this, you can clearly see where the ice is and was. There's a large ice storm, and unfortunately, as we talked about for a few days there, we were really in the bullseye for what it had the potential to produce, and these power outages are largely what that has been. We look at our national perspective here. We look at the national surface map over the last 6 hours here. See the lightning? That's the crazy thing about this. This has a severe weather component for locations down there in Florida. Our friends at Panhandle Weather. See that blue box that pops up at the end? That is a tornado watch, because that's what this event is doing, a tornado watch for Santa Rosa County. That's one of the places they cover down there, our friends at Panhandle Weather on that. Remarkable to think, tornado watch in this, but that's kind of the way this system has worked out. As we look at the radar kind of on a national scale here, we are seeing again signs that things are improving. That backside, that dry air has accelerated. And now it's just about Grenada to Greenwood there. So the precipitation has largely ended in Senatobia. You can say precipitation, you can say prayers, one way or another. We are almost at the tail end of this. You can see on our 6-hour loop here. And yeah, we did have some lightning. That was a compounding factor. That's thunder, freezing rain that we had overnight. But the dry air is moving in, and the system is going to begin to moving out. But I see Stormy there. Again, a lot of folks, been commenting on our social media, different accounts that we have with this, talking about 2 inches of water running down the driveway. It's a lot of rainfall there that Andy's speaking about. It's still raining cats and dogs in Greenwood Springs. There's a lot of heavy rainfall with this system as it's moving through. We've talked just a ton about power outages, and I'm just going to show you kind of a selection of the pictures that you sent in. We had some of these behind the scenes for us a minute ago, so I'm when we were talking to one of the other emergency managers, but just these trees doubled over from the weight of all of the ice. Unfortunately, very significant. Yeah, confirmation again from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers, 100% of the county in Alcorn County is out of power. It's incredible. It looks like we've lost a couple of these here. Oh, I shouldn't have clicked off it. But yeah, bent over trees, significant icing, things on roofs. Ice storms are unforgiving. I mean, that's a pine tree kind of half knocked over a fence, wet roadways. And I mean, whoever this was and wherever that was, one of the luckiest people out there today, just going, what's the deal? Because snap trees, whether it's my house, whether it's your house, there are a lot of those locations out there, the grass completely covered in ice. We're going to remember the ice storm 2026, and we're going to remember it for a while. We check out some of your latest pictures coming in. Again, just a complete gallery here of just miserable looking roads. So this coming here from County Road 306 in Glen, speaking of Alcorn County, and a shot there of just the drooped over tops of the pine trees, each and every one of those needles picking up the ice, and again, significant damage showing up to those. The only benefit to a pine tree is you don't always lose the whole tree. A lot of times you lose the limbs. Sometimes you lose the whole tree, but the limbs fall off. When you get that same kind of coating of ice on most deciduous trees, an oak tree, the way in which the branches tend to go out a little bit more, then makes them more likely that the whole tree splits in two. We've just had a ton of those going on. So I see Kendra there asking the question. So can all of the water freeze overnight? Yes. Now, one of the compounding factors that we have is that, how many times I said that phrase? I feel like that's my overused phrase of the day. Gabe says his car's battery is dead. Well, that's not good. We'll have to go over there and give him a jump when it's safe to do that. But I must say this. Thank you for everything you have done, but you need to shut your phone off and conserve power on that, period. We really do appreciate everything, ... And we will talk a little later, period. If you need us to come by when it becomes a little safer, we will absolutely do that, ... Is there something that you need, ? That could become a common occurrence. And if you sit there, and we talked about this last night, if you're sitting in your car and you're trying to keep your phone charged using your car, number one, it's an inefficient generator, but I get it if that's all you've got. But the car needs to be running, because if you just have it in that accessory mode, you're going to drain the battery. So when the time comes to start it, it's not going to turn over. But luckily, we're almost at the end of what we have here. And unfortunately, we do have just a little bit of wind that's coming in on the back side of this. And hopefully it's just a little bit of wind. But looking at peak wind gusts on this, we have not had a lot of the wind gusts showing up what this has showed. So I think it might be overestimating just a little bit, and I really hope it is. But on the back side of this, there's some gusty winds, and that could then enhance the possibility that some of these trees get knocked down. This is really the next big bogey. Once we get the ice to finally stop, it's the wind possibly trying to bring down tree branches. And then it's these actual temperatures in the single digits and teens that's going to flow in back behind the system. And that's why, talking about these warming shelters, you heard the emergency manager in Alcorn County talking about how they will come and get you if necessary. They don't want anybody to die. Now, we've also talked about staying in your home, wearing layers, cuddle up together, and, just trying to get through this that way as well. But let's be clear. If you think that you could be in a situation that this is a life-threatening cold, you just don't have nearly enough insulation. I don't think any of us are going to have enough insulation. But you just trust your gut on that, and, talk to authorities, because we are talking about temperatures that will get down to near zero for tonight. Let's look at those temperatures, and I'll show some more of your pictures. So we're going temperatures, picture. So this was threats. Let's see here. I want TEMP. There we go. Now we'll do 18-hour temperatures. You know what? I'm sitting there right next to it. We're going to have two versions of this to look at. So this shows expected current temperatures as of an hour from now at 12 o'clock. We're in the teens, we're in the 20s, maybe a few spots into the low 30s. But most locations that we're watching, obviously the cold on the back side of this here. Got to change the color table in this one. That's how often I've used this particular graphic. So tonight, how far does it drop? We show, we're teens late this evening, and by early tomorrow morning, this runs out of data just in time we don't get there. Stops at 2:30 in the morning. The coldest air still moving in. Let me update this to where it'll have enough data to go to the end. So I'd need 12Z surface temperature. Good. And I'm going to need to change the individual temperatures to, I think it's latest, so that should work, hopefully. Okay, take this, and we want to go as far out as we can go on that, which would be 48 hours. That should get us through early morning on Tuesday as well. So click off of that. There we go. So you can actually see it. Okay, I'll step this side a little bit more. Make room for that. So as you'll note here, tonight, 2:33, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30. Now, do I believe that the coldest is just going to stop there? Actually, it might. And you might look at that and go, why such a sharp boundary? And that's because this is where we've had more sleet and snowpack. And we've talked often this week about that refrigeration effect. It's kind of like air passing over that. It's going to be colder because of the snow. And so 3 there, Clarksdale, 0, Tunica, 1 in Senatobia. Those might actually legitimately have a big contrast there between that and Water Valley at 12. I wouldn't feel great about any of these temperatures. On a regular cold night, this would be bad. We'd be having, folks are like, oh, it's chilly. But this is where we need to make a real assessment. We need to talk to authorities before we go anywhere, because roads are going to be treacherous. That's what's stopping road crews. I think to a large extent, we kind of have to shelter in place tonight, but you have to make your own best decision on how to handle this. I can't make that for you, but I can tell you that it will be very cold, and that you probably, if you're going to be staying home or going to be cuddling with some folks, using a lot of blankets and doing layers. Layers in that you need maybe a short sleeve t-shirt, a long sleeve t-shirt, a sweater, and then a jacket. Maybe not to sleep in the jacket, but depends on it. That's pretty cold there. And you want to get under blankets and just kind of nestle yourself in the same way that, you know, if you think of an animal, they nestle in their young down deep into hay or straw or something like that. Definitely something we're going to have to watch. And you need to be careful of, because it could be a life-threatening cold situation. The problem also becomes, as we go into tomorrow, and we look at those temperatures, look at peak temperature time period, we're going maybe 20 in Tupelo. I mean, down here, Golden Triangle, it hasn't been this cold the whole event. It's going to be only mid-20s out there, but teens perhaps for highs. Your warmest temperature could potentially be in the teens for your Monday afternoon. And then as we go into Monday night and early Tuesday morning, some indications that could be the coldest for many other spots. We show it down there. As you can see, 4 New Albany, 12 in Houston, 11 there in Bruce, 9 in Tupelo, and 7 there in Boonville. So single-digit cold. And then the fact that obviously there's massive power outages. Y'all say some prayers, because this is a scenario here where it might be homebound, it might be elderly, but this is almost certainly going to end in some loss of life because of the cold. Starts with the ice knocking out power, and it goes to the cold. So check on your people. That's my biggest piece of advice. Check on your people. I can't guarantee you're going to be able to get through, but for those of you that's like, I see Ingomar is still out of power. Well, if you're watching me, Janine, and Ingomar, you need to be not. Because unfortunately, that battery power on your phone is not going to last, and that battery power on your phone might need to make it a couple of days. So you've got to keep a reserve on there. I know it's so hard to give up the information, but you need to make sure that you still have battery power when you need to, if you need to call authorities at some point here in the future, which is certainly a possibility. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here. I'm going to get some of your pictures ready. We're going to show those coming up right after this as we look at Mississippi Live with Mama Justice Doppler radar as Mississippi Live weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Look at Wanda, ready to rock her big presentation. But first, lunch. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Delicious, celebratory, but is it quick? The Cobb salad. Tender oven roasted chicken, topped with cheese. Prepared, plated, and served? In 6 minutes? Is this for real? Well, of course. Well done, Wanda. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Yes, ma'am. Life is sweet.
Growing up, Gabe was naturally curious when he began to discover weather. Gabe just didn't want to know what was happening, but he wanted to know why it was happening. Gabe became fascinated with tornadoes, and it impacted his life. He wanted to pursue a career in meteorology. Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.
You're watching Mississippi Live weather here in the Room to Room Weather Center all week. We've talked about ice. It is still ongoing, but for you in Water Valley and in Oxford and Grenada, and I say this like any of you are probably watching, considering all the power outages and disruptions that you have, but it is finished. Now, you might see a rogue flake falling down on the backside of this, but the icing and all the problems associated with it are finished. On Mama Justice Doppler radar, I do want to go to base velocity mode here, a way we kind of check to see if there's some wind. There's sometimes at the back edge of one of these is a little bit of gusty wind, and any wind gusts are bad wind gusts today. It doesn't have to be 50, 60 to cause major troubles. We get 20, 25 mile per hour wind gusts. We've got problems on our hands. But the dry air is starting to eat in, continuing to eat in on the backside. And so after more than 30 and I think actually more than 40 hours of winter precipitation there in Oxford, you are done. And so that's moving quickly toward New Albany and Ecru, the backside of this, into Bruce, into Grenada. Winona, we still have just this little fetch of moisture still overhead that's kind of been reinforced there. There are also a few more ripples in this down here toward Kosciuszko, a sign, again, of the strong winds aloft kind of eaten, helping to mix this on the backside. But Houston, we're watching this for you. Still a little bit of ice at the very tail end of this. Algoma, moving toward Ecru, same story up here toward New Albany. And again, a lot of these pokes I've just mentioned, there's no power. I mean, this is the heart of No Power Alley. Tupelo, we've been fortunate enough that a lot of folks have been just barely on the east side and have had less power disruptions. Fulton has been kind of much better off than that, but this has been a rough period of time for some folks, and luckily we are near the end. I'm going to check our Futurecast radar here. So here's the current composite as it stands as of now 11:11 a.m. on this Sunday morning, the 25th of January. And so Futurecast radar, again, shows that's continuing to mix through. I think it's going to be a little slow on that mix out. Again, shows the edge there to the Tupelo area by around 11:44. And then that last kind of batch there out of Monroe County about 12:25. And it all gone there as we head toward around 1 o'clock. So for some locations, we are at the end. For others, we are very rapidly approaching the end of this winter storm system that is moving through North Mississippi. I'm going to bring this in closer. We're going to then also look at your pictures, and just so many pictures. We're talking thousands of pictures because this is a shared experience that many of us will talk about for quite a while. Just looking at some of these here, let's check where we're at here. So these are some pictures there from, I believe that is Prentiss County near the Boonville area, kind of on the east side of town. Appreciate these shots here coming in. I believe Lance, again, with trees knocked down. Again, that's the top of a pine tree peeled off and knocked down, and then another section of it as well. Obviously, some major issues with that. I'll bring up our gallery where the newest stuff kind of comes in first here. Again, some trees blocking roadways. Get the location on this. Apologize, it's kind of popped back and forth. This is Boonville. This is also Lance. We'll bring his picture back up again. And again, that's a tree, of course, blocking the roadway there. Not a big one, but it's the cumulative impact of it. If it were one tree, move it, be done. But it's tree after tree after tree. That's part of the problem with this. It's pretty rough, and it's going to be for a while. And that's how, power line after power line, individual outages continue to come in. And we're looking at, in some cases, half a tree. This one from Martintown Road in New Albany, Union County area. I mean, big part of a tree right there. And you look just kind of ahead in the image there. And again, another tree down. You look just beyond that, perhaps another one. It's all over the place. And it's just, I actually lied when I said that. It's not a tree. It's halves of trees. I mean, look at this. Just peeled and broken. Now listen, there's a decent chance, there's a chance that tree might make it. I don't know if it has quite enough, but you'll note even the power lines there in Union County. I don't know if that was even necessarily tree branches that put that one sideways. But just so many reports, so many instances again of this damaged trees. Again, this is another pine tree. This is kind of the double whammy on the pine tree. So you notice how you have all the pine needles coated in that ice, but you also have this one had a longer reach. And so that pulls them down, weighs them down until the tree can't take it anymore, and they snap. So, man, crazy how that's going. Want to speak about crazy here for a second? Crazy? I was crazy once. If you go down in South Alabama, we have severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing there. That is crazy, but that shows you the impact of this storm system all the way down there. So, man, incredible stuff. But, that's just the intensity of big winter system. We had that thunder sleet, thunder snow, and luckily on this 2-hour loop, you'll notice we are almost done with that. Let's go back and look at some additional pictures here that you are sending in as we're kind of telling your story. And I will pop up our chat where you can interact with us. Again, here, Mississippi Live Weather, a fully digital weather solution that hopefully is proving useful. If you value what we do here, please consider downloading our app. I'm going to take down the chat for a second so I can show you that. But if you support, you want us to keep doing this. It's got a second. There we go, and there we're there. Want us to continue to be able to do this, support our sponsors, support us And one of the easiest ways to do that is using the Mississippi Live Weather app. It's free and available for all the different devices. We have it for Roku, that does you no good in an ice storm. We have it for your smartphones. Consider downloading it, consider liking and subscribing, and we'll deal with it. Man, it's nonstop in the comments. I think everybody, this is an unfortunate shared experience that a lot of us are contending with here today. But we appreciate you guys for supporting us here. I was at a local TV station here in town for a long period of time. Never had an ice storm like this, and I wouldn't have imagined that the first winter weather event we had was something this impactful. There's a good chance, just for some understanding on the significance of this, there's a good chance that at most I have 2 events in my career like this. I've never had an ice storm like this before, and I'm hoping I never have one like this again. So massive amounts of power outages across the region. In fact, we're going to do state power outage total here, give you an idea on that. When we look at that state by state, we'll kind of stop this on the latest moment here. Well, go ahead and stop, please. Thank you. We're talking about 1.4, can I get that? No, 104,000 people in the state of Mississippi reported out, and the actual outages are likely much more significant than that. Tennessee showing 290,000 people without power. Alabama, 125,000. No, sorry, 12,500. And Arkansas, 5,000. Again, this is the difference between where they had snow and lots of it and the ice. And none of us said we wanted ice, but that's just unfortunately what we got stuck with in this case. Again, your pictures tell the story. Send your pictures in. As you send them in, they pretty much come in here, and unfortunately, none of these are very pretty. Again, this is a shot here. You can use the app, the link below. This is in Coffeyville. We talked to folks in Water Valley earlier, but that is a big tree right across the roadway there. Fence like that, I don't know for sure. A lot of those chain link fences like that near schools, I hope that's not the case, but that's a big tree down there. In some cases, split right in two. This is Pontotoc, their roof. Jennifer sending in this picture here, trampoline in the background, but that's a problem because now you have water intrusion. You have all the other problems go with that. Appreciate Jennifer for sharing her situation with us. Again, the complete icing. I'm going to put this to where I have a few more items here on my page. And as we do that, I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut. He is outside kind of experiencing what's going on there in Oktibbeha County. And, you had some stuff break earlier yesterday, have not had as many issues since. What are you seeing as of 11/19?
Well, like I kept mentioning, I've been in the laundry room helping you out in the background, and I've always kind of been hearing some of those limbs crack and fall. And I came out to kind of see what it is that's falling out of these trees. Thankfully, we're not seeing huge limbs. These are kind of just some smaller chunks and branches. The biggest limb we saw fall was actually last night, still lying here just off of this tree right here. That is the biggest limb we've seen in our yard. But we also, I heard it earlier this morning, a huge limb fell in my neighbor's yard. I don't know if you'll be able to see all the way from over here, but at the base of that tree, just a huge kind of crash and snap of it. But for us here, we're staying above freezing. So some of this is the ice from yesterday added some weight, allowed these trees to get a little bit weaker, and some have fallen. But we're not really seeing trees as a whole fall as compared to those pictures you were just showing. Our biggest threat right now is just all this rainfall. And it continues to just pile on up outside my front yard and even just going across the driveway. So just showing that it's some running water overflowing. And my concern is just once this rain moves on out and those temps drop within the next few hours, if that can potentially kind of freeze over, glaze over, and those road conditions get a little bit impossible to drive on, and we start talking about black ice where it's not that prominent as compared to Northwest Mississippi and those peak impacts. But if we get somewhat of a glaze, you're not going to be able to tell it's there until you're already on it and you're already sliding. So very dangerous conditions still to be felt here in Oktibbeha County. Thankfully, not really in the blunt of it, but still something that we need to take seriously as this winter storm is closer to moving on out of North Mississippi this evening.
Okay. Caleb, I want you to look. Can you show up close that branch that got messed up last night?
Yes. Let's see if I can rotate this. Put it down just a little bit. This is the limb that fell last night. Trying to get it to where you can kind of see all of it. But this is what fell last night. So nothing that's kind of occurred this morning or overnight. We've had a lot of rain here in North Mississippi. But this is the biggest limb that we've seen. There's a lot of standing water. Actually, I'll come to this side. That way you can kind of see the snap. That is where it tore and fell off here outside in our side yard. So just kind of showing that even though we're not really receiving all that ice as compared to our neighbors up northwest, I mean, there's still an effect having or to be felt here. So even the smallest ice can add just the biggest weight to these trees, especially if they're weaker, they're older, they've been around longer. They're not built like that, especially in the south. So just to show you that anything and that we want to take it seriously. So.
Absolutely. It's our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut. You know, it's just a reminder that, you know, this is such a historic ice storm. If we talk about, you know, a couple tenths of an inch of ice like what you have down there, we'd have been like, this is a big deal. It's going to bring down branches. And then as it turns out, that is the not big deal. That just casts an idea of how incredible the ice totals have been that we have seen from this historic ice event. Current time is 11:22 a.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. That was our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here, totally streaming digital live weather source here for North Mississippi, Oktibbeha County. As you'll note there, the precipitation beginning to end as we speak and kind of moving in kind of on the backside of the storm system there. We are hopeful that, again, the dry air start to move in. As this moves out, we are hopeful that the winds don't kick up too much. And there's a possibility that that could end up happening somewhat as well. But certainly not the case there in Oktibbeha County because we had, of course, the umbrella going and we were in good shape there. But unfortunately, there are other reports there. I see someone mentioning a tree on a house trailer in Iuka, some problems with that. We can say that this is a killer storm system. Unfortunately, reports coming in now of 2 fatalities in the Louisiana area, I think near Shreveport, those due to the cold weather component of this. And that really is our biggest concern now. Power outages, when it's electronics, when it's food, those are important, a big deal. But the heat component, with everybody, with so many people having electric heat now, power outages can be deadly. And so we are hopefully trying to prepare you so that you can be as safe as possible. And so we talked to Rick Wise with the Scouting America, formerly Boy Scouts of America. And, we talked about how do you make it through these cold temperatures? You bundle up. I mean, that might sound silly, might sound obvious, might sound what my 12-year-old in there refuses to do, but you layer up. Layers, in this case, we say save lives in severe weather coverage. When we're talking about, how are we talking, do we have, enough ways to find out if we're alerted, all that kind of information. But when we're talking about something like this, layers, the more that you put on, it insulates you and increases the odds that you're going to be in okay shape. We're going to take a brief break here. There's one thing I have to take care of, again, behind the scenes here. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather, and we'll be back with more on the ice storm of 2026.
I have been going to Tupelo Smiles my whole life. When I was a kid, I was unhappy about some uneven coloring on my teeth after getting my braces off, which at the time there really wasn't a fix. I was recently made aware of a solution that would totally fix it, which is exactly what we did. They not only heard my concerns, but they never stopped looking to solve my problem, and that's why I love Tupelo Smiles.
Just before 11:30, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You are watching Mississippi Live as we are tracking ice that has moved through North Mississippi and caused crippling power outages, disruptions to traffic to a certain extent, but largely it has been the trees falling that have been the story and has taken out power in what is frankly a crippling way across this state. More people are without power that typically would watch us than with power. Think about that for a second. That's incredible to think about, unfortunately. We are looking out of our camera in Tupelo. We're looking back toward the west, and what we are looking at is the end of the precipitation just back to the west. All those trees you see in the foreground there, the glaze that we see, we still unfortunately have that ice on, and it's not going to melt. Temperatures are going down, and life-threatening cold is following in behind this system. To the extent that it's reasonable, we could have low temperatures down, not just in the single digits, but below zero. We've been talking about these threats, and I haven't updated hardly anything. I've looked at radar this morning, haven't done hardly anything. So I can show you the exact graphic I showed you last night, and this is mostly the same what we showed most of the week. And we have had this. We have had accumulating ice and sleet. We have had thunderstorms that have then produced accumulating ice and sleet. We have had some travel impacts. That's about the only thing that may be somewhat of a miss. But the travel impacts are also significant, is you can't get down the road without running into a tree and another and another. That's why first responders are out there trying to work to get things in place. We've had very limited amounts of accumulating snowfall. Again, that was never this event, but now we are to this. And I got to tell you, that is a bit of a miss looking at the latest information there, because this is compounded by the fact that we have all of these power outages. This cold, I don't know that we've had people die to this point, but this cold could be the thing that goes over the list, unfortunately. Let me think of this would be THREAT, as I'm trying to adjust this for you so that we now have it accurate on bottom there. But that cold, now, that is what we need to be. So let me refresh that graphic, because we have officially underdone that. We've talked about it. We've spent a lot of time talking about all the other factors with this, but I got to go up to level 5 on that. And actually, I can probably take the rest of these down. So next time I show it, I'm going to take the rest of these down, because these, well, the ice and from thunderstorms, that's in the past. Accumulating ice and sleet, we're at the end. No snowfall, really left out in a couple of flakes, but this becomes the story. Possibly deadly cold air. Because it would be cold anyway, because pipes would burst anyway. One of the things our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut, was putting in our discussion, our kind of behind the scenes chat related to this earlier, was about some pipe bursts up there in the area in Starkville at some apartment complexes, things like that. And that is at the front end of this, or at least some water issues going on there. A lot of school districts are going to be canceling on Monday. I'm getting text messages from some of the usual folks. You can do your submissions as far as schools are concerned. I'm going to kind of bring it down here for a moment, and we'll go over to that browser over there. You can submit the school closings yourself using our submission page. I'm going to put it in the chat right there. Give me a moment. I have not had the chance to go in and approve any of them while we've been on the air, but we'll get to that here in a minute, if and when that time comes. But looking at like Greg Ellis with the Tupelo schools, and so trying to get everything confirmed on everything. So we will see on exactly what's going to happen with them. And I think we're going to have a lot of folks out of school, and there might be people out of school for a good chunk of next week because of the cleanup with this. But you can submit your closings there. I'm only approving closings with a dot, with an your organization dot whatever. So basically, if it is, Tupelo Schools dot, I think it's tupeloschools.org or .com. I can't remember which one it is. But your domain there. We're not doing Gmails. We're not doing Yahoos. We're not doing any of that kind of stuff just because we've got enough things that we're worried about on top of trying to make sure that. So use your official email address and we'll put it through there. We're doing also some businesses, but only with those at domain, that matches email addresses. Okay, so let's also go back. And again, this has been one of the things that we've done. Man, it's just these pictures are heartbreaking. Luckily, this not more damage than it was, but this is the part of a pine tree there. So many pine trees with parts of them, knocked off. That picture coming in from Tupelo, the Sharon Hills neighborhood. That was the 2014 tornado. Hit that neighborhood pretty hard. There weren't a ton of trees still left there. Appreciate Ryan for sharing that. A couple of shots there from Sharon Hills. Another tree bent over here. This from Rachel White. Again, tree just, completely draped over there with all the ice. Hopefully, the problem is if we add in any wind on the backside of this storm system, we're going to have some bigger problems, as that kind of could enhance some of the tug and pull going on the limbs of those trees. So we're hoping that's not the case. If we talked about, there could be some gusty winds on the backside of this. Look at just how sad that tree is, completely draped down. Other limbs on the ground related to that. Just those kind of cedar trees as well as pine trees are the most vulnerable. That one coming in from Hope in Ecru. These kind of bent opposite directions. I got to get in the habit of clicking the name first. So apologize for that. Ben in Takapola. Ben in Takapola here, again, showing some, well, that went away. Let's see if I can get it to come up this time. There we are. Again, just kind of split. I don't know that was a single tree. No, that's two just trees right next to each other. Split opposite directions. Split opposite directions because they probably grew very close. But you see how they were kind of overweighted on one side or the other with the amount of foliage they had. And so that makes it easier to kind of split one of those like that. You can join the conversation, our chat ongoing on Facebook, on YouTube. And submit your pictures. We appreciate all of you that have done that so far. And they just, this is what you guys have sent us when I will one day remember, click info, Blue Mountain, Lakin. Appreciate that, Lakin. Come up here and just yes. You got power lines in that. You've got parts of not just pine trees, but, deciduous trees there. Not getting through that road for a number of reasons. Still assume any power line is dead. Even if your power is out, that might just mean that for one reason or another, the power is not getting to your house. You can still have massive power issues despite your power being out. There can still be power potentially running to the line there. So assume every line is hot and producing electricity, or we could have issues. We could have fatalities with that. And this is a reminder that just because the precipitation has stopped doesn't mean the kids can go outside and play anywhere near trees because the limbs could fall. Was that what you were about to ask me? Okay, good. My daughter, all of a sudden, I looked her in the eye right when I was about to say it there, but tree limbs will continue to fall, because it's just the stress. We kept using I don't know if it's kettlebell, description of how this works. But again, if you're holding that straight up and down, you can hold it sometimes longer than if you're holding it to the side. And then you can hold it, when you're talking about holding it to the side, longer doing that than you can when you're spinning. And the spinning is like adding the extra force, maybe not to the same extent to which the wind impacts what we have here. Storm chasers, they're in the same boat. We don't have any power at my house. Give me a moment here to kind of check and see where my power levels are to make sure that is all what we're looking at. And I want to see at the back end here, it is possible we could have a few snowflakes. I'm getting some reports of snowflakes on the back end for about that long. Let's look at Mama Justice Doppler radar. That's probably what this is. I'm going to go into clear air mode here, so give me a second. That last little bit here in Pontotoc, and I wish I had a camera that was working, But our camera in Pontotoc, I think, is probably still down because of the massive power outages there. I mean, just a huge percentage of folks in Pontotoc County out of power. Yep, that one's down. Camera, or maybe the Sherman. Let's see if Sherman's available. Is Sherman down? Sherman went iced over and went down as well. Unfortunately, Tupelo's kind of our best bet to kind of get a look at this as it moves in. But iced over trees and maybe some snowflakes on the backside of the system as it moves out. Before then, hopefully the winds don't kick up bad, and then then things change. I apologize. I showed a bunch of stuff I didn't show you there. Apologize that you didn't really have anything to see until this. So let's go over back to Mama Justice Doppler radar, because that was actually something to see. And here is kind of the backside of our winter precipitation, and possibly a brief changeover for just a few minutes to snowfall as a parting goodbye from this storm system that a lot of us will remember the rest of our lives. Obviously, Golden Triangle, you'll probably forget this. You know, where Caleb's at, maybe. But I guarantee you, folks in Grenada, Water Valley, the cold showers that are ahead, assuming you still have water, and the cold nights that are ahead will be something that you'll take away with you for a long, long time. I'll bring one other thing up on the cold that Rick Wise, who's with Scouting America, mentioned that just kind of stuck with me. You know, he mentioned the fact that, you know, you could consider, you know, possibly pitching a tent inside your house. Why on earth would you do that? Well, the reason is because you want to have a smaller area where you're heating, right? It's the reason your car cools down and heats up more quickly than your house does. If your house is cold, it takes a while to heat it up because you're heating a larger space. And if your car, well, that's not the case. It's a smaller space. And so if you put a tent in your house, you can conceivably heat that up with your own body heat. You and the members of your family all have a temperature around 98.6 degrees. And so those little heaters gathered together will heat you guys up. Now, I want to see what this long one is there. Let's not make a debate on which one was worse. One hasn't yet taken, well, no, that's not true. This one has taken lives back in Louisiana, and hopefully it will not take them here. But again, 94 is the benchmark, and you don't know if you hit the benchmark until looking back after the fact, right? Some of the biggest moments of your life, you might not have realized were big moments until you look in the rearview mirror. And that's possibly the way this one is here as well. Now, we will remember it like 94, but that doesn't mean it will be more than 94. Because the thing about 94, and we talked about this with a number of folks the last couple of days, is that the infrastructure was not as well trimmed when it comes to trees. And so trees, the power cooperatives have been extremely aggressive about going out and clearing the right-of-ways for power lines. And because of that aggressive trimming, we've had power outages, but they would have been even worse. So that to say that the impacts on this versus the impacts from 94, I mean, I really hope we're not talking about 2 or 3 weeks with people without power. That's, I mean, you know, that was 94. And hopefully that's not what we're talking about here. Clearly, I'm not cheering for this to be the biggest. I'm cheering for everything to get straightened out here as quickly as possible. And hopefully that'll be the case. As we go wide, again, our headlines at this hour, as of 11:40, come back to this: power outages and wind gusts. The precipitation is leaving. We've almost made it to the end. And if I make this a longer loop, instead of a 24-hour loop, I'm going to set this to where it does a shorter period of time. You can watch those power outages growing and growing and growing. And the only reason any power outages have gone down here in the north part of Mississippi is because the systems to monitor them have gone down from time to time, or at least the way in which they put it to where we can get it in our system here. Chase Camp says 94 is nothing compared to this. Depends on where you're at, because this has been extremely impactful. Lafayette County, Union County, Pontotoc County, Tippah County, up into Prentiss County, Alcorn County, Tishomingo County. Those folks have been some of the hardest hit this time around, and some of those folks were the hardest hit in 94 as well. But again, these graphics, I mean, it's laughable what it shows for Boonville. That is way, way under on the number of power outages there. I mean, back to Greenwood, back to Greenville. There's almost no place untouched where we were under that ice storm warning from the significant power outages that we have seen. Again, prayers for the linemen and women that'll go out and try to restore power, and for the people around here that are trying to come back in. But I would say as much prayers for each and every one of you as we go not just through recovery from this, but also attempt to stay warm with what would normally be busting pipe sort of weather. That's where we're at again with this. I need to think about this for a moment here. I need to probably talk to a plumber. Take a quick break here. I'm going to see if I can get a plumber that I can talk to about some best practices, because I'm worried about pipe bursts next. Is there something you can do about that? That's a question. I'm going to see if I can get somebody to answer coming up after this as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center.
As a bankruptcy firm, Mitchell, Cunningham & Bowling realizes many people are worried about their finances. We're here to guide you through the next steps to restart your life with easy video appointments. New clients don't have to leave home to get information about becoming debt-free. Also, convenient in-office appointments are available at the low cost of $340 upfront for a chapter. You can be on your way to being debt-free. Contact Mitchell, Cunningham & Bowling today or visit our website at free.com. We are here to help you.
As we move into storm season, here's something most homeowners do after a storm. Roof damage isn't always obvious. Wind can lift shingles, breaking the seal. Hail can bruise them below, and flashing around chimneys and pipes can loosen without you ever knowing. That damage may not show up for months. If your area has strong wind or hail, a professional inspection will help bring you clarity before small damage turns into bigger problems.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's really the only thing you can do if you don't have heat.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Friend didn't want to be on camera, didn't want to, have his voice on there, but does know enough about how to handle this. When we're talking about these temperatures dropping into the teens to single digits behind this, his recommendation, and again, I'm not going to give his name so no one's suing him or whatever, but I think that ultimately it's probably a good recommendation is you need to down at the road. If you think the house is going to drop below freezing on the inside, not an impossibility in some cases. Hopefully you have an internal thermometer that you can kind of figure that out inside the house, some kind of thermometer there. But if you think that the house is going to drop below freezing, you want to probably cut the water off down at the meter down by the street so that you don't have pipe bursts that cause. I mean, we might have just ran a commercial to talk about pipe bursts actually. But anyway, Absolute Cleaning and Restoration, one of those sponsors, our very first sponsor here in Mississippi Live Weather. I'm sure we help you out after the fact, but they've been giving away these. We've talked for probably 2-3 weeks about these faucet covers here. Anyway, they'll help you out after the fact. But I think they and us, we would all like to probably help you out before. My stuff's got real choppy here. Penny, would you check and see if the video's choppy on that end? Because it's gotten real choppy on my end here. I'm hoping we're not loose. Computer looks good. That looks fine. Okay. Well, hopefully we're all right. Even if it's choppy, we'll keep going as long as we can, right? So what about people who use wells? Well, the issue isn't the supply coming from the road. It's you're trying to cut off the supply line. So if you're on well water, there's probably a cutoff so you can cut the house off from the supply line. The idea is that water damage is significant not just in the initial burst, which is significant, but it's in the gushing that occurs after the fact, right? And the quantity of water, and that's going to then drain water towers, and that's a whole different thing. But so you want to probably cut your water off, turn your water off down at the meter if you think your house is going to go below the freezing point. Because then if you have, or honestly, approach it. I would say if your house is going to get down into the 30s or low 40s, we probably need to cut that water off during the overnight time periods just in case, because the problem is the, even with those spigots on the outside, the fact your house is warmer inside helps to kind of maintain the interior of the walls and keep pipes from bursting there to a certain extent. Well, now if you turn the power goes off, you didn't turn it off, no one's turned off power, but the power goes off, now your temperature in your house is dropping. Now you don't have the heat coming from inside your house. Now the pipes in the walls freeze at a different level, and it's even colder outside. So again, we have a lot of layers there to where my recommendation and what I will probably do here in the Waupun house is I'm going to walk out to that meter. I'm going to use the little key. I'm going to turn it off at night. And if everything goes well, we'll turn it back on when it warms up a little bit more. It's not going to warm up. We'll be 20s and low 30s. We're not going to even think 30s. We'll be 20s out there for highs tomorrow. Maybe very low 30s. Either way, it's not going to warm up much tomorrow, and that's a problem for a large chunk of this week. So we might need to be trying to do something to make sure that those that the pipes don't burst, and cutting off that water if they burst kind of limits the impact and the effect related to that. Again, one of the main things, again, is appreciate you guys in the conversation here. Talking about this here. In Peppertown, did nothing but rain. Got prepared for power outage, but glad I didn't have to use it. Hey, if you in Peppertown, that is what we were talking about. I'm going to go back to Mississippi Live, Mama Justice Doppler radar here for a moment. As we bring it in nice and close again, we talked over and over again about the cutoff, right? We said that there would be a line. And I lost connection there. Let's find out. Oh, no. It's still trying to query it. We're good. But there would kind of be a cutoff between, you would have icing here, pretty likely. Tupelo, we mentioned Tupelo 10 zillion times this week because we knew that was kind of where the dividing line was on where the cold air was going to go. And then Tupelo, you get the icing. North of Tupelo is more significant. South of Tupelo, less significant. And then you're lucky up out here in Peppertown, near Dorsey, that you don't get hardly anything. It's just mainly rainfall. Extreme. We talked about it was going to be a low confidence, high impact forecast. Unfortunately, that is the way this has played out. And I meant to have the camera on this when the final hurrah came through the Tupelo area. And as we look outside of our camera there, our Mitchell, Cunningham, and Bowling camera on South Tupelo, we show the trees, again, iced over. Oh, we broke it loose. It can move. Some of our cameras haven't been able to move because they've got frozen as well. I'm trying to look kind of back there. We're looking back toward the east. Clearly that tower there, solidly iced over. And one other thing I'll say, if for one reason or another you have to go near a tower with guy wires, those wires that hold it up, the ice will start falling off of this later this week. And it might happen. When that happens, though, that ice falls, it can kill you like that. I was at a TV station in Texas, and the tower was right there above the TV station. Well, that happened here. We had one here as well. But I remember one time a piece of ice came off that tower, fell down, and completely busted out a windshield. So beware of falling ice once things finally do start to thaw out just a little bit more. But looking out kind of northeast out of our camera there, you might be able to see it. Let's show you snow, shall we? The bottoms of these clouds, you see how it kind of has a little whoop, whoop, whoop in the light gray there? That's all the snow. So for my daughter in there that somehow heard at school that we'd have a ½ inch of snow and never once asked her dad if it was going to snow, and then was disappointed yesterday when there wasn't snow. Did you see your flakes? She's not going to answer. Hopefully you saw your flakes. Unfortunately, we've got a lot more than that. A lot more than a lot of us bargained for. Again, you can find our app, submit your pictures there. We're going to be going through pictures for days, and unfortunately, a lot of them are going to look pretty similar with icing and damage from a lot of power poles and trees. This coming from Boonville, a picture here of, again, it's just a tree just completely split all the way down the middle, different sections. This was a healthy tree. Largely looks like it was a fairly healthy tree, maybe not perfectly healthy, but because there's a little black there in the middle on that, and sometimes that's a sign of that they're not in perfect shape. But a relatively healthy tree, and just broken to pieces there, unfortunately. Power lines. This is from Enville. Again, some of those power lines completely coated there. And then, of course, the ice hanging down below that. Appreciate that shot there. Trees really kind of dangling back and forth. These are going to be Brittany. Let's see where Brittany is at. I'm going to pop up her picture. If I got to click info, pop that, and then let's map it there. Brittany, those cluster of pictures from actually near Starkville. Interesting. That's west side of Starkville. Okay. That wasn't what I expected. But clearly the ice significant enough there. So I take it back, Caleb. Things not as good where you were at as what it looked, or maybe just to the west of Starkville there. Pretty rough. And again, the big winner on this, or loser on this event, has been the pine trees in North Mississippi. Well, and all of us for losing power. But be patient, it'll come back. Let's see what else we have here. So many, this is the unfortunate thing. It's not just trees down. In many cases, it's into things. This is in the altitude community. That'd be up there, up north, Prentiss County-ish. Yeah, you can see there's the power meter. It looks like pulled off of the house. This is a bad thing waiting to happen. Unfortunately, just keep that in there, Penny. Okay. That's a bad. That is a problem waiting to happen. And you can see it looks like there's some kind of something falling on, I guess, the ice from where whatever that tree was happened, peeled back the guttering, and there's going to be a lot of damage, a lot of insurance claims. I saw somebody in the comments saying the insurance companies are so excited about this. That is not the case. Paying money out is not what makes them money. Take pictures of everything right now. That's another thing I would say. Take pictures of everything right now. Because you want to see it in this state. It helps with great documentation to get that to eventually to your agent to be able to make sure that the claim is paid in the way that it should be. So, yeah, definitely make sure to take tons and tons of pictures. Now, that's not what I want to see over here in Tupelo for a moment. This is that camera that's really kind of going back and forth in the wind, jostling that thing back and forth. As the kind of wind on the backside of this kicks up. I'm hoping that doesn't mean that we're going to start having some significant power issues. I am zoomed in a little bit, so sometimes that enhances that just a little bit. Yeah, we could talk to him. Let me think about that. But yeah, I think clearly that shows that the wind is kicking up, and that could cause additional failures of trees and things of that nature. Let's do a power outage checkup here. Current time is now 11:54. We'll kind of do a round the horn on the different power cooperatives, check out the numbers. These have been some of the more accurate numbers if we go right to the source. This is the Tallahatchie EPA there. Again, a lot of single outages there. And we're looking at, again, 510 active outages. Why is that important? That's 510 different customers, or sorry, different locations where they're going to have to go back and fix things. That's a lot of footwork on the ground. Tippah County EPA, we're looking at about 10,000, almost 11,000 of the possible almost 14,000. So only 3,000 of their customers with power at this moment. Up in Prentiss County, we're now up to 7,600. As we look here for Tishomingo County, we're still looking, we're kind of leveled off, I think probably about as much as we're going to get there at about 12,757. Yeah, I wonder if the reason why that number hasn't gone all the way to the top is, you know, so we have these spots down here close to Belmont. I think we might be able to see where the freezing rain stopped, or at least it wasn't as significant. You might have been just warm enough down here in Belmont. I think that's why our number, you know, went out. Everywhere where we had freezing rain, or just about everywhere there was freezing rain up there in Tishomingo County, it knocked out the power. So it's going to take them a while to be up and going and get things back up and working on that there in Tishomingo County. As we check out, let's see here. This would be Natchez Trace. They're sitting at 5,300 outages as of now, just after 11:50. This would be Fork County. Fork County has making some progress on getting these down. They had not been hit as hard as some other locations, but clearly there have been plenty of outages there. Choctaw County, Oktibbeha County, Western Clay County, even close to the West Point area, a few outages at this time. Tom Bigby Electric Power Association. This big pink one up here is my power outage. We are lucky enough to have an electric F-150, and it has done a great job keeping the lights on here at the house. 6,200 outages. By far, one of the most impacted power cooperatives have been the folks over there at Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association. We're going to try to get a hold. I have a contact there. I'm going to see if we can try to get a hold of someone talking about what they have going on there. But obviously, massive numbers of power outages. It's going to take a lot of time, and with all the hills and trees and everything being there, we haven't. I'll have to check here in a minute and see if we get some pictures there out of Lafayette County and then Pontotoc EPA. 16,000 customers, all of Pontotoc, most of Pontotoc County, Algoma, up there. It looks like the Ingomar area as well. Just lots and lots and lots of power outages still at this time. And yes, I probably missed some of those, but wanted to at least get most of that list out there for you. So as we approach the noontime period, we can say that we are almost done. Mama Justice Doppler radar, the last of the flakes, the last of the whatever. Well, in saying that, I could probably argue for a couple of rogue flakes with what we have right there. That's probably a couple of picturesque flakes if I go to clear air mode on this, but not more than that. Just a couple little. Is that what I think it is? Sort of flakes on the backside of this storm system as it moves out. So we're about there out of Itawamba and Tishomingo County as we show you here, looking at our future. This would be Futurecast radar. You can time out. Oh, I did it again. Sorry about that. Let's go back to the radar for a second. So we're almost done. As you can see there, this last little burst here is maybe a couple picturesque flakes. That's about it. And then as we head and watch this go east on Futurecast radar, we are all but done. I'm going a little wider on this. We'll clear it all out. As you can see, within the next probably 30 minutes to an hour, we're all done. We're all done. Cleanup will continue with those operatives. Break here. Call somebody about trying to get with Northeast Power. And we're going to do a review. 67 Weather Center. You're watching. Support the sponsor. Support us. It's the only way we can keep doing this. Back right after this.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off. No tax, 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. You know, we knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lawpon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lawpon has proven himself trustworthy.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. You're watching our continuous coverage of the ice store of 2026. I'm live from my home. I'm stuck here. You're stuck at your home. And we're going to do our best to give you the information to keep you ahead of what is coming next. And what is next is very significant and could be life-threatening. So power outages are dangerous, but let's be honest, in and of themselves, they're an inconvenience. The danger in this situation comes from the cold weather that follows. And we've talked about this here in the Room to Room Weather Center all week long. And that has been, there's a lot of cold air behind this, and that cold air is dangerous. Look how quickly temperatures drop. We're 29 by 4 p.m., we're 22 by 7 p.m., we're 19 by 10 p.m., we're 16 by 1 a.m., and we're down in some cases into either the high single digits, nothing high about that, or low teens. Actual temperature, not wind chill temperature, as we look toward the early morning hours of tomorrow morning. And I think we're once again doing that just as cold for Tuesday morning. And I think every morning this week, the best we can hope for is 20 degrees. But more likely, it's going to be in the teens. That's dangerous. That's going to lead to pipe bursts. We're hoping that doesn't lead to hypothermia and other issues related to that as well. I got to tell you, I am shocked that we have been able to broadcast as cleanly as we have this morning based off of my electric power coming from extension cords from a truck in the garage that is not running because it's electric, so I'm not worried about that. But the fact we've been able to even bring you anything has been incredible because power outages are the story. Now, I will say that our big, as we kind of re-rack that there for a second, our big push for wintry precipitation is almost through. It's right there at the Mississippi-Alabama state line in Belmont and Red Bay. And after this, if you see a picturesque flake, that's it. We are finally done after the better part of 40 hours of a winter storm that will be remembered for a long time. So in Aberdeen there, the worst is over. We are done in West Point in about 10 minutes. Starkville, a little bit with this last little bit of icing. Louisville, not impossible to see maybe a little bit of a wintry mix. I'd say that just for about that long in making. But this is the last band. This is a 1 hour loop. And once this is gone, everything is, well, all the ice is gone. But there's no question, though the icing, there's no additional icing, but the ice is not gone. Unfortunately, this has been the issue. It's been power outages. Obviously, I don't have to tell you, you probably don't have power right now. But if I make this a loop that goes back over the last 24 hours, you can just see how quickly this ratcheted up. I'll make this a 30-minute, time step on here. And you can see how it's not just here, but it's across. Just watch this fill in as the ice gets heavier through midday, afternoon, and last night. And then the massive power outages, the cumulative nature of it just coming and coming and coming has certainly been dangerous to this point. We've had a report of at least one fatality in the Shreveport area in Louisiana due to the cold. And our concern is that the cold is our next biggest threat that we run into now that the precipitation is moving on out of here. So we have shown this threat confidence graphic a number of times over the course of the last couple of days. The accumulating snowfall is gone. The accumulating ice and sleet is just about gone. So I'm going to go back here and take this to level 1, that to level 1. The travel impacts will remain issues from time to time, and the sub-freezing temperatures. That is where the biggest concerns are going forward. So give me a second while I change this graphic so that the next time we go to it, that it doesn't come up with anything terribly suspicious on some of these. So I will re-rack it and re-show you here for just a moment. But I would say that we largely have done better on travel impacts than I ever could have imagined we would have. So here's our updated graphic on that. Because you might be asking, you got a team of 4. Well, we do. We're blessed to have a team of 4, and I'll give you my 4 box. You've got me, got Gabe that locked up like that last night, Maggie that's out of power up in Northwest Mississippi, Caleb where they've had some issues in and out with some tree branches, stuff like that. He's offline with us at the moment, so you've got me for a little while longer as we try to kind of sort through what is going on here. But the main impacts, again, going forward, still some travel impacts as roads attempt to refreeze, and then sub-freezing temperatures for more than a couple of days. In fact, low temperatures this week could struggle to make it out of the teens. That presents a life-threatening situation because of that. Look at our 7-day forecast as we show it here. I'm going to hop right to that. Do they? Okay, we're trying to get some things, make sure we have our discussion with our insurance agent potentially on trying to figure this out. So we'll see if we can do that. But but yeah, we're looking at teens to single digits the next week for lows. It's going to be very cold, and each of these nights, tell you this right now, somebody not watching this because their power's been out longer is probably still going to be facing some power outage issues by next weekend, maybe beyond. I mean, you start talking about the hardest hit locations, and there are a lot of very, very hard hit locations. It would not at all be a shock for that to be the case. Okay, let's dig in here on a couple of things. Again, we had that thunder, ice, overnight, something that we hoped wouldn't happen, that doesn't happen. I've never seen before, but did unfortunately happen with this. And now we have that dropping temperature. Look at how low it goes tonight, and so we can show you city by city. While I show some teens out there, best case scenario, there are going to be spots up in northwest Mississippi where we're down here into the low 20s. Those are locations where we've had the most significant snowpack. We'll come back to that here in a second. Looking at the snow cover, it's most significant back out there for locations out into Arkansas. This does show some snow cover up here in the northwest Mississippi, up in Lafayette County. I would say that is sleet that's probably misinterpreting as snowfall. Look kind of snowfall, more official snowfall accumulations. And yeah, this is, I think, something I agree with a little bit more on snowfall totals over the past 2 days. And they've been pretty hefty out there in Arkansas. And those are, I'll move out of the way, those are some big numbers. And we were close, but unfortunately, we got the bad part. We got the mix. Estimations here on Mississippi Live Weather Radar on how much icing we saw, because I would say that we can put that past tense. This is just about out of here. And this has been extremely significant amounts of ice. In some cases, estimation over 2 to 3 inches of ice. That is debilitating. It's easy to bring down trees and power lines in that situation there. It can be very, very troublesome. And maybe that's the kindest way I can put it. So let's look again at those temperatures for tonight. I'll slide it over a little bit so we can see more folks in the Delta, and I keep my arm in. But those temperatures down into the single digits in some spots. Very cold, mid-20s, maybe a few locations, and actually below 0 in a couple spots, a possibility as well. And that's tonight. Tomorrow, it doesn't get a whole lot better because temperatures, best case scenario, I zoomed ahead a little too quickly, but we're looking at some teens out there for afternoon temperatures on your Monday. That means things are going to not get above freezing. Roads that freeze overnight will continue to be frozen into tomorrow. And again, teens and 20s, it's going to be cold. And there's going to be some issues there. I appreciate Tommy saying didn't think he's turned on his TV once without one of us being on. Thanks for all we do. And we appreciate you for your support, Tommy, and all the folks who are supporting us here on Mississippi Live Weather. Yeah, reports of some snow flurries on the backside of this. Might have to let my daughter know this is the thing that she's been hoping for. You get about that much in the way of snow flurry activity. Sometimes that happens in the backside of one of these systems. And then overnight, you can see in the pre-dawn hours of early Monday morning, there are points overnight where we show below 0 temperatures, Tunica, Senatobia, Holly Springs, and that continues to spread eastward and involve more people. With the lowest temperatures early Tuesday morning, our model runs out of data at about 4:35 in the morning. Single digits, this could be very detrimental and could be troublesome. How long will it last? That's a great question, and I think the answer we can both kind of infer looking at the 7-day forecast. I'm going to drink of water. Okay, that wasn't for dramatic effect. I just had to drink. Single-digit lows, barely reaching the freezing point, and I'll be honest, I have not massaged this forecast much. I did not spend a lot of time on these numbers here. But generally, I don't think, if this were sitting at 36 or 38 degrees, that would make a huge bit of difference. If we get some sunshine, we'll get some melting. And luckily, ice tends to not last as long as snow does. But the cold temperatures with this system linger as well. So if it melts quickly, hopefully, but the effects of the power outages and everything that goes with that will be sticking around for probably the next week, and that cold air that could be killer will as well. I'm making another phone call here, trying to get someone on with you, and we're going to look right at your pictures coming up here at Mississippi Live Weather from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds. Join the conversation. We'll show some of those pictures right after this.
Frozen pipes can cause serious damage. That's why Absolute Restoration is giving away free faucet covers to our community while supplies last. Installing them is easy. Just slide the foam sleeve over your outdoor faucet and secure it snugly. Also remember to disconnect hoses, open cabinet doors under sinks, and let faucets drip during extreme cold. Call or text to check availability, and from our family to yours, please stay warm and protected.
When you've been injured, don't settle for a lawyer who doesn't even know where you live. Call Langston and Lott. Local lawyers, personal service, real results.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off. No tax. 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
Current time is now what we're at about 12:12. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here in the Room to Room Weather Center. And again, power outages and all of the reports related to, I have to click this here and go like that. All the reports related to the, again, tree damage. They're just everywhere, substantial, and it's been a rough go of it. Brittany Presley sending this storm, ice storm of 2026. I'm going to pop up the shot so we still have it, and I'm going to pop it up on a map here to get an idea of where she is at. Again, this could be any number of locations, but that one closer to the Blue Springs area. Picture you sent in. You guys have sent in thousands of pictures. Looks like that one was very near the edge of, nope, it wasn't near the edge. It looks like it busted out that window there, potentially on that house near her location there. Big trees, in some cases healthy trees, falling because of the ice that we have had. Again, join the conversation in our chat on Facebook, on YouTube. We've been on live for a large chunk of this event, and we'll continue, for the next little bit here until all the precipitation is left. I can tell you that once the precipitation is left, we're going to make some assessments as to, how we handle things from there. But just the sheer number of pictures, and you'll notice that this kind of groups pictures based on, how many we have and where we have them. But we're just talking about thousands of pictures here that you guys have sent in across North Mississippi. Have not looked at a lot of those back out here for the Delta. Let's go out here toward Greenville. This earlier this morning, and Greenville has been spared some of the more significant power outages because you didn't have as much ice, but that's still a pretty good size, one of those, I think, live oak trees. That's, as you can see with what they did with the garden there, that's one of those trees you build around, and unfortunately pulled down there a bit. That's a sad one to see. All these tree damage reports, sad to see as well. Back up there between Shaw and Boyle, again, some of the ice that they had on the trees coating all of the various surfaces there. Significant icing throughout much of the Delta. We're looking at Charleston out here. Again, looked at some of these at the hospital earlier on. We'll see if we can kind of catch. A lot of these were from yesterday. I don't know if we can necessarily have those. Yeah, this is, again, some of the ice kind of peeling that down. That actually, I'm sorry, that's this morning. So Mandy's here showing again the trees broken, and it's a reminder again at the hospital, essential workers that have had to go in and help out are truly some heroes in this situation. And we're so thankful for them and all of the work that they do, and hoping that things can get better. I want to check in with our meteorologist, Caleb Edelblut. He is down in the Oktibbeha County area. There has been, again, some tree damage and things back in that area there. Caleb, I know, you're sheltering at home as opposed to at the studio because we wanted everybody where they could be for a little while. How are things down there? What are you looking at this time?
So far, so good. The biggest conversation, at least in my household, is when those freezing conditions will return, especially for all the water that's been on the ground. My sister's visiting from Birmingham. She goes to UAB, and she's just trying to figure out when to get back on the road because she has to get back for classes tomorrow. and she's driving east, and that's where conditions are a lot better. I mean, they're still getting those rain and thunderstorms, but not seeing freezing conditions. So I think the big question for everybody here in the Golden Triangle region is what will these below freezing conditions do for us now that we are super saturated out on the ground, and especially still seeing those limbs kind of fall from that ice previously, if maybe some of that will freeze on those limbs again. So I've been kind of tracking to see kind of when those conditions will return. I know we're right on the threshold, at least based off the National Weather Service, and we're almost dropping a degree each hour. So progressively getting cooler. And this is going to be the warmest we're going to feel for a while. So some harsh frigid conditions in store. But the good news is that precipitation pretty much almost out of our area. And that is the good news as we are wrapping up this ice storm and getting it further and further away from us here in North Mississippi, Matt. So still expecting some freezing conditions, but hoping that that is limited in the next few hours.
Yeah, exactly. Because those wet roadways very much could end up freezing over. Appreciate that. Our Caleb Edelblut been with me all morning there. Can join the conversation here with us as we are continuing to talk to folks behind the scenes here and officials about what is going on in the area as the next phase becomes response and dealing with the cold that is coming on the backside of this storm system. Again, we still have what is primarily rainfall down here in the Golden Triangle. Number of cameras that we can check down there. We're going to look at our camera there in the western part of Oktibbeha County, and looking that is still, again, some ice there on the tower. This is one of the 4-county electric towers. But if you look beyond the foreground to those trees, they don't have that same gray kind of hue with the icing that some other locations have. But that's a completely different story up here to the Tupelo area, where, again, all the trees clearly solidly iced over, 32. Temperatures will drop, and that means things could get more scary as we head into the tonight and the next couple of days. You know, everybody is dealing with this. Our power's out here at the house. Your friends, your neighbors, and to a certain extent, even public officials dealing with it at this time. Joining me here on Mississippi Live is Mississippi State Senator Chad McMahon from up here in the Lee County area. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator McMahon. You know, this obviously is an unusual situation. Have you heard anything from your folks down in Jackson about this and about, you know, what we expect going forward?
Sure, Matt. Thanks for reaching out. Yeah, we look, MEMA, County Board of Supervisors, every city had time to prepare. Assets were deployed. Most of the community centers are open. I know at Guntown, at Baldwin, Tupelo, and Saltillo, the community centers are open. They've got generators there. They're warm. The mayor of Saltillo said if you come to Saltillo to be sure to bring blankets because although it's 72, it's still kind of nipply in there, even though it's 72 degrees and people are in and out constantly. But look, I know it could have been much worse. I know we were planning for much worse. I realize people are inconvenienced, but what I ask people to do today is pray for our first responders, pray for the linemen. We're at home inconvenienced, but these men and women are putting their lives on the line. Personally, I've been out this morning seeing some neighbors that I knew were elderly and bedridden, getting their generators on. Took a couple of heaters to a friend of mine, and now I'm trying to get my tractor cranked so that I can help get out and move debris off the roads. But my battery's dead, of course.
Of course, you know, and that's the thing. A lot of people are going to run into that probably with their vehicles as well. But I think you kind of nailed it there. You know, sometimes we're like, okay, who's going to come and take care of me? And I think it has to start with our neighbors and our friends and that local circle around us as we kind of help each other out. I know that at least up in Tennessee, and talking with our friends up at Tennessee Valley Weather, you know, there were resources staged in advance. Do you know about those kind of staging, that kind of resource and stuff that could be on the way here to Mississippi? I know President Trump did declare a disaster declaration for this, so there's going to be the funding involved. But are there things that are kind of staged and ready to come in at this time?
Yes, we had time to prepare on the front end of this storm. My personal supervisor, George Rutledge, I talked to him last night. He was out riding around. I was too. But we had salt already deployed. We had sand. People were called in early this morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock. People started going in. So, yes, Keep in mind, though, folks, I realize a lot of people have damage and they want people on the road, but these linemen and the first responders, they have families too, and they had to get their car de-iced, and they had to drive into work, and then they had to get the equipment at work de-iced so that they could get out on the roads. We've been fortunate, though. I think a lot of the roads are clear, Matt, but I know we've got a lot of trees down, we've got a lot of debris, we've got a lot of folks without a power, but every asset is being deployed to get this back on. And I want to commend Governor Tate Reeves, who declared a state of emergency in advance of the storm. That allows for a lot of materials and for drivers to drive in an emergency situation that normally might, like for example, for liquid propane, a lot of times they can't drive but a certain number of hours, but in a state of emergency, they can operate a little bit longer. So yeah, we were prepared. We had several days to prepare.
Yeah, I think that's one thing, from like a meteorological standpoint and thinking about this is just usually we don't have quite this level of confidence this far out. I can't think of a time where we did, honestly. And so I think it's good to hear that not just, from our, nerd standpoint and trying to explain it, but from an actionable standpoint, people took it seriously and that help is on the way. I think that's just, the one thing that I want to kind of emphasize, and I'm sure you probably do as well. That it's going to take a little time, but help is on the way.
Yes, and I'm asking people, help your neighbor. Please help your neighbor in front of you, to the left and to the right of you, across the street, behind your house. Check on them. Give them a call, especially the elderly. I just left a lady's house who's elderly, and she had one of the nicest generators I have ever seen. I was really envious, but she's in her 90s, and she couldn't get it out and get it turned on, but we were successful getting that done. But please check on your neighbors, especially the elderly and those that are infirmed, to see what you can do to help. Help begins with you, and then as the day progresses, there'll be official help on the way as well, and it's already help on the roads.
Yeah, I think you're right. It help begins with you, and think of how little time it takes for you to get to point A to point B if you're helping a neighbor like that woman you were talking about. Versus trying to get somebody, maybe a family member that's out of town, over there to try to help them out. Like proximity in this case dictates that we should step in.
No doubt about it. Help your neighbor to the right of you, to the left, across the street, and behind you. Help them first, and then let's try to help others.
Okay, I appreciate that. Anything else you want to add, Senator McMahon?
Yeah, if you need help, dial 911. I would encourage people to stay off the roads, especially as the temperature drops. Please do not add to the first responders, add to their workload by getting out and having wrecks. And let's try to stay at home. Enjoy. It's a weekend. Let's try to enjoy the day, even though we're being inconvenienced. And let's pray for our linemen and first responders, and let's choose to work together and look for the best in each other.
I couldn't agree more with everything you said. Senator Chad McMahon from up here in the Lee County area joined us on Mississippi Live Weather this afternoon. If there's anything we can do for y'all, let us know. But thank you so much for taking the time to come on with us.
Thanks for your professionalism, Matt, and for keeping people updated. Thank you.
I appreciate that. We've got a lot of folks supporting us, and thankful to have you on that list as well. Senator Chad McMahon here from the Lee County area on Mississippi Live Weather this midday period. And again, we continue to look at ice on lenses. And I apologize that this is as I'm trying to get to a computer that I think might have. There we go. Behind the scenes, we moved it there. Try to pull his senator's name key down off of that. The ice is not going to melt initially here because you'll note the temperature above my head has gone down just a little bit more. We're down to 30 degrees in the Tupelo area right now. And definitely this is going to be a kind of rough as we go forward into some colder conditions as well. We have an important storm update here, and I believe this coming from the governor's office. So I'm going to go ahead and read it to you here for a moment. I think I'll go back to radar as we do. So give me a moment to bring up Mama Justice Doppler radar. This coming just down from the governor's office in the last couple of minutes here. Important storm update. The severe weather is having a major impact on our state. Currently, nearly 150,000 are without power. This number is expected to rise as freezing temperatures remain, ice continues to accumulate, and trees continue to fall. As an example, the TIPA Electric Power Association is reporting that one TVA's distribution lines has suffered catastrophic damage, and because of that, it would be a lengthy time before they were able to restore power to every customer. We are in contact with the TIPA EPA and TVA to coordinate state assistance. Utility providers are working as quickly as possible to restore power. Road conditions, downed trees, and weather hazards are making it hard for utility crews to reach northern areas of the state and restore power. The Mississippi Public Service Commission is working to assess restoration timelines. Please continue to check with your friends, your family, and your neighbors. Please pray for the utility crews who are already out working. They are working in dangerous conditions and they run the risk of encountering branches and power lines falling on them. Our entire state thanks them for risking their own safety to help restore power to those who don't have it. If you do not work for a utility company, please stay away from down power lines. 58 warming shelters are open across the state. The state of Mississippi continues to remain in contact with local emergency managers, and we continue to respond to counties' needs and will do so throughout the storm. In addition to the resources already deployed, the state will be distributing over 76,600 bottles of water and over 60,000 meals ready to eat as soon as road conditions allow. We will also remain in contact with our federal partners. The Mississippi Emergency Management Agency is coordinating with the folks at FEMA and the Federal Emergency Management Agency to bring in 30 additional generators for healthcare facilities. We've also activated an emergency standby generator service contract to procure, to basically get additional generators that can be deployed to impacted areas. Saving lives is our top priority. The Mississippi Department of Transportation is still treating roads, but roadways remain dangerous. Please stay off the roads, if at all possible. This situation is expected to get worse before it gets better. Again, please continue to check on your friends and family and neighbors. Please keep praying for Mississippi. Governor Tate Reeves with that statement coming in the last few minutes here. Again, recognizing some important factors there. Obviously, the sheer quantity of power outages across the state, the length of time in which restoration could take to occur, with Tippecanoe County as an example, talking about a catastrophic failure to some of the transmission lines due to the heavy icing with this that will then extend this to days. And maybe potentially, again, as we've talked about, weeks. Also mentioning in there another important point, that there are warming shelters, 58 so far across the state. And talking to different emergency managers this morning, one of their contingencies they were working for is they weren't sure which warming shelters would have power by the end. We do know there are 58 open across the state with this extreme cold coming in. Also mentioning, again, bottled water. One thing that happens at power outages is that means if everything fails, that pumps to get the water into the water tower start to fail. And so once the water tower drains, the quantity of water can become more limited. And so the bottles of water are certainly going to help out. And those 60,000 ready-to-eat meals certainly will help out as well. We talked about it earlier, how the Trump administration coordinating with the folks here in Mississippi to get things together so that they can make sure that everything is going to be in place, and that the dual state of emergencies, one issued by Governor Tate Reeves and by the federal government and President Trump, will both allow resources to flow in to get things back together and put back together in hopefully a shorter fashion. So again, appreciate the governor for giving us that statement related to this. Certainly it is a scary situation for many of you, a frustrating situation, but help is on the way, and it's going to take a while. I mean, let's just be clear. It's unfortunately going to take a while in some locations, but it is absolutely on the way, and hopefully fairly soon. As we go back to some of the pictures that we have been sorting through here, again, showing on the ground what it looks like to you. And it has been obviously significant issues for a lot of spots. This is for Bradford pear tree. Of course, Bradford pear is not a strong tree, so easily snapped by this. I'm going to, behind the scenes, make sure we've got everything in the right spot. And there we go. Show that Bradford pear tree, again, split. Again, that's pretty easy to do with those trees because they are not super strong. This shot here, again, the icy roadways. This is Grenada. Carrie sending us this shot here of just, you just see the trees down all along the road. The road is also kind of a slushy, sort of icy pack there. Not all of our roads are like that. If I went outside my house, the road here looks primarily wet down by the road because we did not have as much sleet to do the sticking to really kind of build up there, initially. But you'll notice that, again, it's a lot of trees down on the roadway and a lot of overhanging branches. This picture actually could look worse a few hours from now. I'm looking at some of those branches there out in the distance. More of those could end up falling because one of the concerns now becomes wind. And wind gusts behind this system could still be enough that we end up having more trees that crack and break and fall. As we come back over here, look at wind gusts. Estimated peak wind gusts, Tupelo area, 25 miles per hour. And again, most wind is not going to be this strong, but occasionally we're going to get some 20-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and whether it's occasionally or not, that's enough to cause some additional power disruptions, as if there's folks still with power, but also enough to bring down more of those trees. And unfortunately, that is an issue there. Now I see Prime 00001, I think got the number of zeros right, asking, in places like Starkville, where there is tons of water, is all of this just going to freeze? Yes. The water, anything wet will be frozen. So you're either going to have clearly icy roadways or you're going to have black ice tonight as all of that freezes. So while travel is somewhat passable in some locations now, it will not be in a few hours as those roads that are wet ice over. And maybe we're lucky enough that, again, the wind is bad for trees, good for roads. The overall average is still not good because it does somewhat dry out the roads if it gets breezy, but then obviously tree branches are coming down and that's making the roads worse as well. So overall, the average and the way it works out, the wind is not a positive for us. But the cold temperatures, huge issue going forward. As you can see here, dropping down into the teens behind this once you go back up into northwest Mississippi, and then even back into the single digits once you get back into Missouri, and all of that cold air. Let me adjust my graphic here so you can kind of see this all. I'm standing in front of a lot of it. But all of that cold air there is going to come spilling on in. And we're going to be extremely cold tonight. That's why the warming shelters, that becomes one of the next big things that we're going to talking about because people are going to need those. So we are going to take a brief break here as I get a couple things organized behind the scenes. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here at noontime. We are almost done with what's left of the wintry precipitation. Again, join the conversation here beside me. Everyone's asking anything on downtown Tupelo. I heard from one of the folks with Tupelo schools. We coordinate. I talk with them a lot about what the weather is, how it impacts their situation, and then that they make their own decision on what they do. But in his personal situation, talking about, it was almost like there was a bubble over his house in Tupelo at their exact spot. Virtually no ice, and you go 2 blocks over, it's ice all over the trees, all over the cars, all kinds of issues there. So weather is weird. Perhaps there was heavy rain or something and it melted the ice. Can't say for sure. God's plan is what God's plan is, and the way he makes it work, he makes it work. But we do know that the next step and what we have to plan for is a very, very cold night. More as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds.
I have been going to Tupelo Smiles my whole life. When I was a kid, I was unhappy about some uneven coloring on my teeth after getting my braces off, which at the time there really wasn't a fix. I was recently made aware of a solution that would totally fix it, which is exactly what we did. They not only heard my concerns, but they never stopped looking to solve my problem, and that's why I love Tupelo Smiles.
You're looking live here out of our camera in Batesville. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather here in the Room Through Weather Center. It's been a week of expecting wintry weather, and unfortunately it has moved in, but thankfully it is in the process of moving out. Looking at this closely, that camera's locked up. And that's a problem we have with a lot of our cameras here with North Mississippi Storm Chasers. As power outages came about, they went down. Oxford, one of those locations. Let's look up here and see if we have anything back out toward Crenshaw. Crenshaw's up and working, but it's iced over, so we can't see anything. Pontotoc, I think, is probably still down as well. I'm going to check and see if Alcorn County is actually up there. That's one I haven't tried in a little while. Alcorn County, very hard hit by this. I mean, the reason these night pictures come in, you can see the moment that the power went out at some of these spots there, and it stopped transmitting data back in. One spot that we have continued to have power has been the Tupelo area. And one thing that we note on that is it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter on our camera there as things move out. And down for locations in the Golden Triangle, we are dealing with kind of the last of the rainfall for some locations there. The roadway's still wet. Raindrops on the screen there. Again, the Mississippi Department of Transportation providing these cameras, allowing us to kind of understand what we're looking at. We will probably try to talk to the folks over at MDOT at some point here in the next little while. But up in Caledonia, still a little heavier rainfall at that point there as we wait for this camera to kick in and update. Bouncing a little bit. I don't have anything really bouncing off of the surfaces. I'm trying to see if that might be a little bit of sleet. I see something bounce. See how there's something kind of bouncing there? I know that that's just a splash. There might be just a hint of sleet on the last little bit here as that band exits. But the big winner of the event down here in Macon, where we've spent most of the time above freezing, conditions fine, clear, and dry. Mama Justice Doppler radar, again, that rain just now exiting the Macon area, still a little bit over Columbus, a little bit over Caledonia. For our friends out here in Vernon and Millport, you guys have been just warm enough throughout much of this event to avoid most of the issues there, thankfully. Up here toward Detroit, it's been kind of back and forth based on a lot of what we have seen. I mean, considering the fact that Fulton has stayed almost exclusively rainfall through most of this, and we have not had a lot of icing issues there. I'm hoping that means the south and east in Detroit, you're in better shape. Again, travel fine right now. As you can see, travel speeding along I-22 there in the background of that shot or on that picture there. But this is all going to freeze. And I think we have been spoiled over the last few hours here that, oh, well, it's below freezing, but I can drive on it. That will change as temperatures drop in the next couple of hours here. At some point pretty soon, you are not going to be able to drive anymore on this. With me again and kind of giving us an update here at midday on what has been a very trying day, I'm sure, for him and all of his folks, is Scott Hendricks with the Tom Bigby Electric Power Association. And Scott, I know that, obviously your crews, we're trying to keep them safe. They're out in the field. It's been kind of a long day. How are things going so far as of, I guess, about 12:30?
Matt, we've made tremendous progress. I know a lot of people would argue with that. They would say our power's not back on. I think at our peak, we were probably about 10,000 out. We're down to 6,200 showing on the map. It's
That's
probably
incredible.
slightly higher than that. Less than a dozen poles. This is probably hundreds of trees, less than a dozen poles. But we're looking at some lines down because of those things. This is mostly limbs and outages, and you're having to work methodically. So an electric system works just like a home system. Think of it as you have a main breaker. Well, that's the breakers at the substation, and then you have all the sub breakers, your 50 amps for your air conditioner and your 20 amps for your plugs, that are in the living room. Well, our system has breakers and system breaks that protect it from issues and shorts. And so if you've got the smallest of limbs, somewhere in that system, it can kick all the way back, and you have to work each one. You have to ride the line. You have to see what's on it. You have to clear it, and you think you've got it all clear, and you bring it back up, and people was great. Hey, the power's back on, and then it triggers back out. Well, there's another small win we haven't found yet. So we keep doing that. We are building and reconstructing the poles that I told you were down. There are some service poles that would feed 1 to 2 houses. Those will be the last things we do. The last 1,000 customers, maybe the last 500 members that are down, those will take the longest because you're having to take a whole crew to one account. Most lines that we're getting back up to drop it by get 4,000 people back on, you can get hundreds at a time, or maybe 1,000 at a time at a certain given outage. So we're working hard, we're working fast, we're doing the best we can, we're being safe. But it's tremendous. But we're lucky. I've talked to lots of the systems around us. There are serious impacts. I think Alcorn County is 100% out. Tippah County is 100% out. Prentiss County is a pretty high percentage. You've been showing it on your broadcast today. There's lots of people that fare far worse than us. We're going to work as long as we can. We will take a dinner break, hopefully about 6, and probably work into the night. There will come a point when we hit a wall and we need to stop. We started working at 5 and 6 this morning. There will become a point when we need to rest. We have requested help. I can't tell you when they'll be here. There's a call on that at 1 o'clock that I'll be on. As we know more about that, we'll let you know. We're going to have that help come regardless, because when you get down to where it's, like I said, one house that has an issue. And I saw one today. There's a tree that fell that took out the service line. Service line ripped the meter base off the back of the house. Well, that's 2 things are going to have to happen for that to get cooked back up. We've got to get the service line. We've got to get the tree where it's safe to work. And then the homeowner has to get an electrician to put the meter base back on the wall, rewire their panel, and us hook back up to. That isn't going to happen today. That's an unfortunate fact. We wish it could. I don't think they could pull it off with the electrician. I don't think we can pull it off with the service, because those will be in the last 1,000 that we get to. But we will do everything we can to get as far as we can. So we get a call from nursing homes. We try to get them back on as best we can. We get a call from community centers where they're serving as warming centers for people to go. We try to get them on as best we can. We try to get the most people for each repair we make. And nothing's perfect. Every line has health issues. Every line has concerns. Every line has small communities, churches, community places where people would go to shelter. We have to do the best we can and do the most we can for each time. It's the most beautiful organized chaos you've ever seen to make this judgment over what you do with each step to make it progress. And my team is working at their utmost, and we're doing the best we can. We're trying to communicate well. We're trying to post regularly, trying to post safety updates, trying to post issues we know. It's a challenging day, but this is what we do.
Yeah, this is what you've kind of built everything around, trying to respond to this. I pulled up this picture, and I think it's important. You mentioned something in there that, people I think automatically assume it's about electricity. It's about you, and that's not the case. This would be an example, I guess, of one of those meter bases, right? This is a situation where it kind of pulled it off the house. And so people expect, well, you're just going to put it back up there. That's not what happens. There's 2 people involved, 2 people you have to get there. You guys hook up the line and you're like, okay, it's ready. And people go, but turn it on. No, I can't do that. Why can't you? Because that's your personal property.
And we're not licensed electricians. We are taught and trained to work on the big line. We stop at the top of the meter base, the weatherhead, wherever it is where the power comes into that, or where the power comes in from underground to be in that meter base. And at that point, we stop. And the picture you're showing on the screen, if that's on our system, we would have to do the repair up into that meter base. And then somebody else has to come in and make sure they're safe to go inside the house. Now, that's not true on everybody. Everybody's thinking, oh no, we all have to get electricians. No, if your house is undamaged and it's just our line to that meter, we fix that. And we will get those fixed, but there are often a lot of things involved here. And so the one you're showing and the one I was talking about are very, very similar situations where it's going to take multiple parties to get that habitable. And of course, that house has got a tree on it, so I don't know when it'll be habitable or if it's safe. But if the meter base were the only problem, that would involve an electrician.
So, if somebody has this situation, and obviously they're out of power now, is there any special information they need to tell you so that this doesn't start a fire when they trying to flip the line back on? and that'd be my concern going like, well, what am I supposed to do about this? Well, you're not, number one, you're not supposed to do anything at this stage, but is there anything, any information they need to pass on to you so you know that?
If they have the situation like that you're showing at their house, they should, they're without power now, they should turn their main breaker off to try to stop anything coming into the house. It should not be a fire hazard just from hanging in that situation. A fire hazard could well exist. If they're concerned, that's one of the things they can call in and talk to us. We're trying to make notes of those situations to keep up with those situations. To where we could disconnect the service before it gets re-energized. There could be some folks that are out of town or sheltered elsewhere that have that situation and don't know about it. If it ripped the wires entirely out of the meter brace, it will short when it hits the ground and kick a breaker and drop our line. So that would be, should be fine. If it didn't break the lines and they're still connected to the lugs and it just broke the weatherhead, you would hope they would be fine. If they know an electrician, they certainly can take pictures of it and get some advice on that. But if the situation, if that were my house on the screen, they should call us and tell us hey, my weatherhead's been torn off the back of my house. We have a risk. Would you please make note of it? And we'll do our best to note that. With 6,000 people out, we're not going to be perfect. We're going to do our absolute best. So they should take other precautions. But the main thing I would do would kill my breaker inside the house. So whatever happens outside shouldn't feed in. And they should be somewhat protected. Nothing's perfect. Talk to an electrician if you can. Take care of your cutting off your main and let us know, and we'll do our best to do our side of it, and we'll see what happens. But that's what I would do for safety concerns. If a power line of ours hits the ground, it should kick a breaker up the line. Things happen where it don't. I know you've followed some extent our media post. I posted a picture today where there was a wire on the ground live. It was smoking and burning and connecting. It did not make enough of a connection for whatever reason to kick the breaker. So it was one of those things, the breaker failed, the breaker froze. I'm not sure what happened. I can answer you next week, but I don't know today. But make the assumption if it's our line that it's live. 99.99% of the time, the breakers and the equipment will have functioned properly, if not a higher percentage, and you would be safe. That's a lot of risk. Don't touch it.
That's Scott Hendricks with the Tom Bigby Electric Car Association. There he is. Go ahead. It'll take a second to come back.
I'm back. I had to kill that call.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I appreciate you doing that. I know you have an important call coming up here in a few minutes with this. So I'm gonna ask you the question you don't want me to ask you. If you were to guesstimate and set expectations on how long customer, that last of the last 1,000 takes, just so that people have a general idea, and again, it hopefully is sooner. What would you say with help from the outside, how long it might take?
I believe in being very honest and very transparent, Matt. I think our members know it. I think you know it. I think your followers know it. We will have it. I hope it's 3,000 and not 6,000, but we will have thousands out. I would think by tomorrow, unless something crazy happens, we would get down to where you have that last 1,000 or that last 500. And you really don't know until you get out there, because we keep making progress, tens and 50s and hundreds at a time, and somewhere between customer 500 and customer 1,000 you hit a wall. I don't know if that's 999 or 500. With this storm, I figure it's more closer to the 1,000 than the 500. Most thunderstorms we get, tornado winds, straight line winds, whatever it is, it's closer to 200 to 500 that are the ones that are just one-off. So you got to do one at a time. Straight lines winds probably being the worst. This storm will be like that. There will be a lot of one-offs. Just like that yard we were looking at in the backyard. That whole line we could have fixed. That house will not get power for probably a week. If they're going to have to get an electrician, they're going to have to get the tree off the roof. We're going to have to get our line in. We're going to have to fix it. A house like that will take a long time. I would hope tomorrow that we make a lot of progress and we're down to the one-offs. The question then variable becomes, how much help do we get? If we get 10 crews, well, we're 10 times as fast. If we get 100 crews, we're 100 times fast. So 100 crews, making 1,000 one-offs, you can probably 1 to 2 days. 2 days. Uh, uh, if we get 50 helpers, it's less. If we get 50 helpers, I don't know. But I shouldn't post that they're expecting a multi-week outage. I don't, you know, put our perspective. I hate to be out more than that are going to be out for a week to 3. I don't want to say who. As hard as this has been, is to be out than us, and there's some help too. That's where and the most honest answer I can give you right now.
Okay, I appreciate that. And it does give some perspective, because I think the thing that in that chat that people are going to ask is, well, how long's my power? And I think having the understanding that this is not a thunderstorm. Tornadoes are very precise. Thunderstorms are still pretty precise. This is widespread, as you mentioned, the one-offs here, there. That I commented on that last night before we had, the more massive, amounts here. That it was just dotted all over the map. There's so many 1s and 2s and 5s, and not many 100s, 200s.